approaching midnight! 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 Midnight!
Okay, now I can hear you all right.
Excellent.
Perfect. Anyways, Mr. Maxwell, thank you for being on the show. You're listening to Midnight in a Perfect World. This is actually going to be our first video recording that we're going to put on the website as well as on the radio show. I just want to say that I'm a huge fan of your work. This is surreal for me. You know, this is really like a milestone for us. You know, we're really glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say that. I just do what I do and hope somebody is hearing me.
A lot of people are, Mr. Maxwell. So.
Well, thank you. Do we want to do a video interview?
Yes, please, if possible.
Okay, let me see what I'm doing here.
There Excellent. We go. We see you there in your study.
Yep.
Perfect.
In my office. I live here in my office. This is where I live in one small room. Zero. Yeah.
That's where all the magic thoughts happen, I guess.
Yeah.
All the magic thinking. I like that.
So, we're calling you from Ottawa, Canada, and kind of like opposite end of the continent. Here, it's crazy what technology we're able to do this.
I know, and I'm amazed at what's going on at my age. I'm amazed that we can do what we do. It's incredible.
Sure. Yeah, I guess introduce yourself to our audience. I mean, I know you from like various things like Matrix of Power. That's probably the one that I like to. I actually watch that a lot, very often, because I can see how it's pertained to today. You know, everything that's said in that documentary you did. It's really, you can really see that it today it's still relevant. But yeah, give a little intro for our audience who might not know who you are.
Well, when I did the video Matrix of Power, you weren't the only one that picked up on it. Hollywood picked up on it, and they made a movie called Matrix. You remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, The Matrix, yeah. It was a big trilogy, actually, yeah.
So did they ever contact you about including you in the movie, or?
No, they never contact me about anything. much less send me a check.
Hollywood doesn't like to share their wealth. They like to.
There's nobody in Hollywood who's interested in talking to me. Period. Because my work exposes the hell out of Hollywood. And everything that's going on in the U.S., most people are not interested. People in industry are not interested to talk to me. They're scared to death to talk to me. Because they know that I know who they are and what they're doing, and I'm the one that has exposed them as far back as 1959, some 60 years ago. And so
60 years of research, like maybe you don't claim to know everything, but 60 years of research, that really shows that you might know something,
I would hope so by now.
Yeah, I guess the talk about Hollywood actually, it reminds me of something you said in Matrix of Power about the origins of the word Hollywood, and maybe you can go in about that,
Yeah, well, North America is mostly originally founded by Europeans. Mm-hmm. And the Europeans that came here to found this country called North America came from northeast, west, and southern Europe. And northeast, west, and southern Europe, it gives us our word news, N-E-W-S. North, east, west, and south. So anything that happens in the north, east, west, or south is news. And so the people who came here from Europe were already well organized in Europe as a country and as a people. Way before the Roman Empire existed, there was already a highly developed culture in Europe before the Roman Empire. And it was called Celtic Druids. The Druids were very powerful people in Europe, northeast, west, and southern Europe. Druids,
they were kind of like the Native Americans, but of the European, northern European continent. Yeah.
That's exactly right. They were kind of like the original people in Europe were called Druids. And the Druids were the judges, the lawyers, the politicians, the doctors. Anybody who's anybody in the culture of Europe was Druids. And that's way before the Roman Empire. And one of the most important symbols of Druidism and the power of the Druid people was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand, and Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse with their magic wand, and the orchestra leaders who lead the orchestra with a magic wand. Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It was made out of Hollywood.
Oh, that makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah, that's Dan, our off-camera operator.
Yeah,
The camera.
I'm off camera. Who you see in front of you right now is Aslem on the left and Carlos on the right.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
But
Pleasure's all ours.
no, yeah, it's staring right in front of us, right? Hollywood. So
Right.
How do you find these connections?
You don't. They come to you. It's strange, but all my life I have been attracted to secrets, dark and strange stuff going on, and I love that world of darkness and strange occultism and mysticism, and where words come from and who's doing what and how are they doing it. I've always loved that world, and so it seems like it just comes to me continually. I get phone calls, I get letters and emails from people from all over the world telling me strange things about their country and their culture I didn't know anything about. And over the past 60 years, I've just been writing them all down and keeping track of all the strangeness of the world. And the one thing I do bring to the table, I don't consider myself to be an expert on anything. I am too smart to know how much I don't know. But one thing I do think I bring to the table are the people that I have met. I have been in the company of some of the most extraordinary people on the planet. And I have heard and seen with my own eyes things that they're doing, what they're involved in, and what they know, and how they're conducting the world. And I've watched them. So I try to tell the earth and wake up the people of the world to let them know the world is not what you think it is. I know I've been behind the scenes. I know what's up on the stage and behind the stage. I know where it all came from. Not because I'm so damn smart, but because I have been in the company of the people who are running the planet. And so I like to be able to tell people how to think and show them where the ideas are coming from and how to think on their own, because so many people write me and they want to know, where do I start? And I always say, why don't you start with me? I'm the one that's done all the work for 60 years, you know. Yeah. And since I've done it all, why don't you just start to me? Call me, I'll tell you where it all starts from.
Exactly.
And tell me what subject you're interested in, and I'll tell you where to go for the best information, because that's what I do for a living.
That's
I've
honestly
been doing
perfect.
It for years. Yeah.
That's perfect. We, when we had this interview, when we were thinking of questions for this interview, we were thinking of things like, we watched a lot of your work here at Midnight, and we don't really want to overlap too much with the other YouTubers that have come to you. We kind of wanted to see if we can find any information that you haven't talked about yet, and if you have anything that you've wanted to share and you haven't shared yet, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
I personally have some things I wanted to ask you about spiritual experiences I had in my own life, and maybe you can help guide me on those. But I think I'll bring those up later.
Yeah, we're gonna try to, because, for instance, I was talking to my sister yesterday, and I was saying I'm about to do this interview with this guy named Jordan Maxwell. He's been researching, the world of mystery and occultism for many, many years. And I asked her, like, do you know anything about Freemasonry? And she's like, yeah, I've heard the word, but I don't know much of it. So I was hoping that maybe, especially in the beginning part of this interview, we try to really give an introduction to the world of occultism, because it is around us. It's been around us throughout history, these secret societies. But people, the general public, don't really know much about these things.
That's right. Most people are not aware that there's something called organized crime. Organized crime implies that the crime is organized. It's not just some guy going out and doing something bad. No, he has friends who are helping him. And he's doing it for a reason. And he's working with other people to accomplish something, to rip you off. But he needs other people to help him. And he has to divide the spoils with somebody else. So it's called organized crime. It's like a football game. You're sitting in the stadium and you see that all the guys come together and they're all organizing what they're going to do. They're talking about it among themselves, what they're going to do. Then they go out and play the game. Well, that's the way the world works. There are very powerful people who know that they need to work with other powerful people if they're going to keep their money and power. If you're going to go out there on your own, you can't go out there on your own. There's bigger and more important people than you are that will take you out if they have to. And so if you're going to make money with the big guys, you better make some friends upstairs. You better make some friends, and you better cut them a piece of the action too. Because if you don't, they're going to show you who the real boss is, and it's not you. And so that's why what's his name? The comedian Carl, what's his name? It said, the world of mankind is run by a secret group.
George Carlin.
George Carlin. And the group that runs this world, it's a private club. And you ain't in the club. So just remember, it's a club. The guys meet together. So just as you guys get together, decide you want to do a radio show or you're going to do some business together, well, so other people do that same thing. Rockefellers get together with the Rothschilds. They both got the money, they both got the power, and they know they're not going to fight each other and kill each other. Why don't you just work together? Maybe you both can make money, right? And so that's what happens. And so it's called a conspiracy. The word conspire comes from the word spire, which means breath. Conspire means to breathe together. So when we all get in a huddle, we're breathing together. We're all breathing together, so it's called a conspiracy, to conspire. We all know who each other is, we all know what we're doing, and we all know that this is organized crime, and you need to keep your mouth shut and do what you're told to do if you want a piece of the action. And so this is what most people don't understand, that this is the way government works. This is the way banks work. This is the way religion works. It's all organized crime. It's just the guys at the top controlling everybody on the bottom.
And you can see that, the thing is with secret societies, people know, like my sister knew about Freemasons. She knows the word Illuminati, but knows nothing about them. But it's right in front of us, right in front of us every day. Yeah.
They're not
all you got to do is turn on TV and you'll see them.
They're not even trying to hide anymore. They're just, they don't need to because nobody cares.
They don't need to hide. Why would they need to hide? They own your banks. They own your government. They own your politicians. They own your educational institutions. They run your military. What do they need to hide for? My God. They own the planet. They run it the way they want to. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah. How can we stop it though?
I don't think you can.
There must be. You've been doing research on this for.
Yeah. Is there any counter? Is there any resistance to these secret societies?
Yeah. I don't think you can stop what's going on because for 10,000 years we've had the same problem. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The powerful people at the top are criminals. They will kill you if you get near them. You try and take over what they're doing and they will put a hit on you. And so we are just ordinary people, and that's what I say about myself. I'm just an ordinary person, ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. But I learned a long time ago, the guys who run this planet are vicious. You don't want to mess with them. You learn that in prison. Whoever the guys are in prison who are in charge, you better understand they're in charge.
Yeah, it is like prison. You got to be affiliated, or you better shower standing up and your butt cheeks clenched.
That's right.
You have to be affiliated.
You got to be a part of the group, and if you're not, they're going to take you out. And so I understand the way the world works, but so many people do not understand the importance of knowing this kind of knowledge. They get themselves in trouble, and they live their whole lives in trouble, making mistakes because they don't get it. They don't understand the way the world really works. There's a big difference between the Catholics and the Protestant religions. No, there's no difference. They're both the same behind the scenes. You just don't know it. Mm-hmm. It's a secret society. The clergy in the Catholic Church are connected to the clergy in the Protestant Church. And the Protestant clergy are working behind the scenes with Israel and with the mafiosis, with the government and the mafia and the secret societies in Europe. It's all business.
Yeah, I guess the world, it's all about money, really.
And, it's all about money and control.
So if somebody like a regular person wanted to start learning the truth about secret societies and how they influence us, I guess like my sister, she knows the name Freemasonry, but what does that mean? You know, maybe you can shed some light of, you know, in general introduction to Freemasonry, and maybe kind of showing us the path to find out the truth for ourselves, you know?
Yeah, well, Freemasonry comes from the word, obviously, masonry. And masonry is a form of construction where you use bricks, the brick masons. So when you're using bricks, that's pretty sturdy. It's not like wood or straw like the three little pigs. But when you're building with bricks, you better know what you're doing, because once it's built, it's not going anywhere. And so Freemasonry implies that you are a builder of bricks, but not with your hands, but you are a builder of the world we live in. You build the world we live in. And it's one brick in the wall at a time, one brick at a time. You get the teachers in schools, lock them down. Then you get the police department, lock them down. Then the sheriff's department, lock that down. Get the politicians, lock them down. Little by little, over the years, you get all of the different institutions of government and education, etc., banking, all of it. And you lock each one down into unions, like Painters Union, the Plasterers Union, the Carpenters Union, and the Soviet Union. It's all Marxist communism.
Of course.
Locking it all down so that one day the human race will wake up and find out you got no freedom, period. They run the whole world. And if you don't go along with the project, they're going to waste you. They're going to take you out.
Yeah, basically every institution is, like a brick in a building, and every time you institutionalize or, you know, create an organized group of something in your life, like, you know, like the police or education, you have a section of that institution you can control. Each brick is like a sturdy piece, and if you can control all the pieces in your life, you know, then they have total control.
That's right.
What's the significance of the keystone in Masonry? I think you touched on it in Matrix of Power. You're talking about the Keystone State. Is that where like their headquarters is, or how does it work? That's their headquarters? Yeah. Okay. So
because when you hear that Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, not that Philadelphia is a city where everybody in the city loves each other. No, the city of brotherly love. They're brothers, like in prison. You get it? We're all for one and one for all. You mess with one of us and you mess with the whole bunch. So we're brothers in this. We look out for each other. So Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love, like the brothers in the fraternity, the brothers in organized crime. That's what they're called, as brothers.
Brothers in arms.
That's it. Brothers in arms.
So
And so little things, little tiny little ideas about how the world works. Most people have no idea in the world. But once you have, for 60 years, been made aware of all the little tiny deceptions and little Mickey Mouse crapola that they're pulling on us, it all begins to look like there is a massive movement to screw the human race. Let me give you a couple of examples. When a cop pulls you over in traffic, he pulls you over, he comes up to the car, and he's writing a ticket, right? And he wants to see your ID and all that. And he's writing a ticket. And then he signs it. And then he hands it to you. And you sign it. Now you have signed a ticket in commerce. Because in North America, all criminality is commerce. It's a business. When you do something to hurt someone else, that's a business. Thank God it's none of my business what you do. And it's none of your business who I whack. None of your business. But it's a business.
Mhm.
And so when you sign the ticket, it's a ticket in commerce because money is going to change hands. You're going to be charged. Just like when you walk into Sears with a credit card, you're going to be charged. And you're going to pay the ticket. So when you sign the ticket, you're expected to pay it. But what you don't know, no one's ever told you, when you sign that ticket, you are an undersigner. You are a co-signer. If you want to buy a television and you don't have the money, and it's very difficult for you to pay for it, if I go with you and sign for you, if you don't pay for it, I have to. I am a co-signer. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So when you sign that ticket, you are a co-signer. He signed it first, not you. He wrote the ticket out, not you. He signed it. Now you are a co-signer on a ticket in commerce. And I have watched people do this who knows what they're doing. I would not suggest anybody do what I'm telling you, because you better know what you're doing, because you'll go to prison if you don't know what you're doing. But if you do it right, it works every time.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you sign the ticket, you're a co-signer. You take that ticket, photocopy that ticket, and send it to the Secretary of State. Like SOS, Save Our Ship? No, Secretary of State. She's the one that saves your ship. And so this is why you have a citizenship. Well, she can save your ship, the Secretary of State, SOS. So you take that ticket and photocopy it, send it to the Secretary of State and say, I have made a mistake. I don't think I want to co-sign this guy's paperwork. I don't want to co-sign. I do that with the banks. If I co-sign for somebody and the next day I don't think I want to do this. You contact the bank and tell them, I've decided I don't want to co-sign. I'm resigning my signature. So I'm not going to co-sign. Talk to him. He bought it, not me. I'm not going to co-sign.
Yeah,
so,
and no one knows about this.
Nobody knows about it. So then you send the ticket to the Secretary of State. Secretary of State then notices that, and she sends it to the treasurer for the state, a treasurer, and he will personally send the bill to the cop who wrote the ticket and say, okay, chump, you got to pay it. The guy you gave the ticket to, he decided he don't want to pay it.
There's no way.
That sounds
This works? No.
If you do it right.
If you do it right.
I get so many tickets. I have to try this at least once.
We do not recommend our viewers to try this.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I will take one for the team. I'll try it out next time I get a parking ticket.
Okay.
I'll try it out.
You'll be our guinea pig.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in the law that regular citizens don't know about and we don't learn about. For instance, I was talking to a friend at a party. He's like an old family friend, and he was saying he's opened many businesses like coffee shops and pool halls, arcades. Yeah. And he was saying that if he's learned recently that if you ever get in a lawsuit, someone charges you with something, if you write a letter that same day and respond, you don't have to go to court. You can keep being in discussion because there is no case yet. As long as you keep responding to the letter at the appropriate time, I think you get. I don't remember how many days you get,
72 hours.
Yeah, you know
days.
exactly. You
3
know
days.
exactly what I'm talking about. But no one knows this. You can avoid being in court just by responding to the letter.
Well, they tell you on the ticket, this ticket must be paid by the 3rd of December or before. On or before the 3rd of December. On or before. Well, if you take the ticket you got an hour ago and go into City Hall and say, here, I want to pay this. They said, we can't. Why not? It says on or before, and this is before, and I want to pay it. Well, we don't have any knowledge of it. You have to wait till the ticket comes into us. The cop's got to give us the ticket, and we have to notarize it. And then you can come pay it. We don't know what you're talking about. We see the ticket, but we can't do anything about it. Well, then just write that down, stupid, that I came in here to pay you, and you turned me down. And according to international law, anytime a creditor turns down a payment, the person who owes the money is free. I came in here to pay you, and you said no, you didn't want me to pay you.
And
so,
no,
Jack, I'm out of here.
and regular people don't know any of this.
I'm trying this. You're blowing my mind.
Try and take me to court. I came in here with cash. I've got witnesses here. I was going to pay you on or before, so I came in before. And I wanted to pay you, and you said no. So, Jack, I came in here to pay you, and you turned me down. And the federal law in America says that if you want to pay somebody, this is something a lot of people do not know, that any time a creditor turns down a payment, the creditor, the debtor, is free of the bill. Anytime you owe money and you bring money to your person you owe it to, and they turn it down, the law says that you're free. You brought money to them, they said no. So since they say no, that means I don't know you. And that's it. Now try and sue me and watch what's going to happen. Because I have witnesses that I came to you with the money and you said you didn't want it. Therefore, the international law in America says that if you come to your creditor with money and they turn you down, that releases you of the bill.
Yeah.
So I have
that's awesome. That's so awesome.
And people don't know about this. We don't learn it in school. We don't know anything about the law, but we can be charged with whatever, and we don't know what we're doing. Right. We don't know what we're signing.
You will go out and pay the bill, and you'll go out and do it, and you'll go to jail, and you'll do all those things. When the Supreme Court judge said many years ago, I think it's Thurgood Marshall, who said, every single person in a federal prison elected to be there. They wanted to be there. They chose of their own volition to be there. Why? Because knowledge of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you just knew how the courts work, you wouldn't have to go to prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you were explaining before in other documentaries or other discussions about the court system in general. Why is it called a court? Like you play tennis on a court.
Why do you have to go to court? Because you play tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Come on, wake up.
Mm-hmm.
You play with basketball on a court. Why? Because in court, the idea to go to court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So you have two teams. This team of lawyers here that represent you is a team. And the other person you're suing has a team. So you got two teams. And so your team stands up and throws the ball back into their court. Now they have to quickly pick it up and answer you in front of the judge and sends it back to you. Now they put the ball back in your court. Then your team stands up and throws it back at them, and there's a cross-examination in front of the judge.
The referee.
The judge is there to referee the game. It's a game between the two teams, and to make sure everybody's playing fair, the judge is there to be the judge over how, not the judge of the offense, he's the judge on how the ball is being played, how the ball game is being played.
That's
He's
so
not
true.
Judging. He's not judging whether you're right or wrong. He don't care. He don't care who's right or wrong. He's going to get paid anyway. So he don't care who's right or wrong. He's there for one thing. The state wants to make sure that both sides are playing this game right. And if you do something you're not supposed to, he'll stop you and say, no, you're out of order. I'll give it to him. And you ask permission. Can I do this, and that, Judge? No, you can't. So sit down and shut up. And he can talk. Why? Because he is the judge over the game. That's why he wears a black robe. He wears a black robe. And that's why everyone, when the judge walks in, everyone rises. The same thing when a Catholic priest walks onto the platform of the altar in the church, everyone rises. Why? It's the game. This is why people in the church rise when the priest walks out. He's wearing the robe. When the judge walks out, everyone rises. Why? He's wearing the robe. And the black robe represents the planet Saturn. Saturn is the god of the Jews today. All Jewish people worship the planet Saturn. Saturn is referred to in ancient Judaism as Lord of the Rings. Of course, Saturn is the Lord of the Rings.
It's got rings.
So yeah. So men were told when you're getting married, you get married with a wedding ring because you're getting married before God, the Lord of the Rings. Women were told, just keep your mouth shut and listen to what God is telling you. So you wear an ear ring to symbolize you're listening to the Lord of the Rings, the planet Saturn.
Does this mean that, sorry for interrupting, but does this mean that the Catholic Church also worships Saturn, or do they worship another planet or deity?
They worship a different god. No, they worship Saturn is involved. Saturn's involved in Catholicism, but just only slightly. Saturn is involved in the Jewish religion. It's actually Saturn is involved in government and religion and banking. But the Catholic Church is involved in worshiping a particular god that nobody has ever heard of. But it's all right there in the reference work. If you go to the reference work on Catholic Church, you will find that the Pope and the Catholic Church is representing the worship of Dagon, spelled D-A-G-O-N, Dagon. Dagon is the God of the Catholic Church. This is why Christians are praying to God continually and nothing is going right, nothing is working. No matter how much you pray, nothing is working. You're still going to jail, you still got wars, you still got problems in your life. Why? Because you're praying to Dagon, the old ancient Phoenician Canaanite god of chaos. He came out of the ocean. He's a fish god, Dagon. Go back and read it in history. D-A-G-O-N. The Pope represents Dagon, the ancient Phoenician Canaanite god from the land of Cana. It's one hell of a story.
So I guess you can kind of, you kind of touched on it when you were jumping through these topics, but the way to the truth is by looking at all these little rituals, like standing up for the judge, standing up for the priest, that we're just born into. We don't know what's going on. We just are born into these, and we're doing these rituals, and we don't know what they're about. And I guess that goes into your work with astrotheology and how you're tracing it back, where the Judaism came from, where Christianity came from, looking back in history. And that's the thing. We're all born in it, and we don't know what's going on.
That is precisely the point. You are born when you're a child, when you came out of your mother's womb. You were born as a child. You have no experience in this world. You require your parents to take care of you and show you how to eat and take care of you so you can have a home and live and grow. Without your parents, you're going to be dead. But in the rest of the animal kingdom, the animals that are born, they instinctively know what to do and what not to do. But not humans. We are babies until the day you die, because most humans have their mental understanding of a child. because when we're born, we just believe whatever our parents tell us. That's all we know. We just believe what other adults tell us because they're like God. They know everything. Until you grow up and get your own mind, and then you find out all the stuff the grown-ups have been telling you for years is bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. They've been in jail, they've got tickets, they got broken marriages, they're alcoholics, they're on drugs, their marriages are screwed, their children are in prison. They don't know what is going on. And you, even worse, you're listening to them tell you how to live. They don't even know what they're doing. They have no idea. They're going to jail, they're going to court, they're paying fines. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how this is being played. And yet you are looking up to them because they're adults. They're older than you. Yes, they are bigger than you and older than you, but they are still the same person you were when you were a child, when they were a child.
They believe their parents. They believe their parents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you buying into what they believe. Well, I don't care what other people believe. I want to damn well know what's going on.
Well, isn't that why the government, I don't know so much about how the Canadian government works, but the American government, that's why they infiltrate education, right? Because how do you keep people uninformed? You just don't inform them. So when you're in school, you have teachers and you're told, shut up, raise your hand if you want to speak. If you talk out of line, get out of the class.
Yeah. If you want to go to the bathroom, you have to get a pass.
You have to ask.
And
you have to ask. Serve.
Permission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
this is why in North America you have a Statue of Liberty, not a Statue of Freedom. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port if you're in the Navy. You ask permission of the captain to go out in the, go on land and go get yourself drunk and pick up some women. You ask permission. And if the captain says no, then you ain't going nowhere because you don't have freedom. You are in a corporation called the U.S. Navy, and they decide what you will do and won't do. Mm-hmm. And so you ask permission. Well, if you're asking permission, if they say yes, then you have what is called liberty. The sailor has liberty. He has liberty to go out as long as you're back by midnight. And God help your unbelievable ass if you ain't back by midnight. Because you are now in a felony. You have not come back when you were told to. And now you come back an hour late and want to get on board ship. No, thank you. You are under martial law. You were told to be back before midnight and you show up at 2 a.m. You don't just walk in anytime you want onto a naval ship. Mm-hmm. You were told when to be there, and you didn't do it. So now you're going to pay. They'll accept you on the ship. They'll bring you on and put you in the brig. They'll put you in a prison. So therefore, you don't have freedom. You have a liberty. If you want to go out on a date, you want your dad's car. You don't just go out and jump in the car and go pick up your date. No, that's not the way it works, son. You better ask your father for permission. And if he says no, then you better go buy your own car because you don't own that car and you don't have the freedom. If he says yes, he's giving you the liberty. But that's why young guys are told, don't take liberties with the young girl that she didn't give you. Because she didn't give you the liberty to go play with her. You ask permission. You get permission. So the idea is we have a Statue of Liberty, not freedom. Period.
Yes. So someone who's born into this, who's accepting these rituals, who doesn't know the difference between freedom and liberty, just like you mentioned the color black and the black robe representing Saturn, and that being connected historically to the tribes in the desert that eventually became Judaism. How do you trace back these things? Like, for instance, how do you trace back the history of the religion? Like, do you go to the library, or how find somebody who knows, or how did you go about it?
Well, I happen to have had in my family people who were well aware and very highly intelligent people who helped me to learn as a child. My mother kept telling me all kinds of things about religion and government. Wake up, use your mind. Don't buy into things people are trying to sell you. Do your own thinking. Go to a library, read and study, and find out. Don't just take something for granted because you heard something, because it's never going to work. If you heard it from somebody, try it in court and you'll go to jail. You better go back and read the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So, like I said, do you know how many people in North America know that your physical body, or your girlfriend's physical body, or your children's body, every single man, woman, and child, their physical body is on the New York Stock Exchange.
I heard this. You mentioned this before. This blew my mind. I could not believe when you said this.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. This blew my mind. We heard that recently in one of your interviews. I forget exactly who it was, but they're basically, I think you mentioned also that there's a Russian influence on the stock trade, and that they're actually participating in the buying and selling of people, and you just don't know that your life is worth a monetary value.
If you could, but you can't. But if you could get your original birth certificate, on the back of your original birth certificate, you will see stamped from all over the world banks, loan institution and banks. Why? Because you are a security on the stock exchange. You are worth right now, the stocks market says that you are worth about $8.5 million. If you're living, each person, your child is worth $8.5 million. Your wife, your girlfriend, worth $8.5 million. And that's why if your body is a security on the stock exchange, if you're going to get married, you better get a license. A license is a piece of paper to do business. And so if you're going to get married, you ain't getting married without a license. Why? Because it's a business. Why? Because if I see you coming out of a bar one night with a woman, and the next day I call you and I say, you know that woman I saw you with last night? Yeah, she's bad company. You better watch out for her. She's bad company. And you say to me, mind your own business. What do you mean? I told you she's company, and you say mind my own business? Company, business? That sounds like corporations, right? And then I find out you're going to get married, and she's going to be your partner. What the hell does that all mean? Wow. Partner?
It's all in the language, and we don't even see it.
Don't even see it. That's why you got to get a marriage license, because it's a piece of business. We're talking money here. So if your idea with this woman doesn't work out in your business, thank God it's none of my business. Who I sleep with is none of your business, right? But it's a business. That's why you have to have a license. And so if you realize that when you buy a new car, you get something called an owner's manual, an operator's manual. Operator's manual is all the information about that vehicle, how to take care of it, how to change the oil, etc. You then have that brand new car, and you have an owner's manual, operator's manual. But if you're going to use that car for business, if you're going to make a cab or taxi out of it, that's different. Now you're using those wheels for money. You're going to make money off of them. So now you need a license to do business. Therefore, if you're going to buy a tractor or motorcycle or anything that has wheels, you get an operator's manual. But if you're going to use those motorcycles or cars or tractors or whatever it is to make money in business, now you need a license. This is why you have a driver's license. You have a truck license, truck driver's license. You have a bus driver, because the word driver means that you have bought the vehicle to make money. Therefore, you're a bus driver, a cab driver. You are a driver, which means you have bought the wheels to make money. You are a driver. You're not a citizen. You're not an American. You don't have any freedom. We're talking business here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to use
even marriage is a business.
It's a business. You don't think so? If it don't work out, you're going to court, and you better bring your house and your car and your money and your life. And she's going to take you to the cleaners.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm
Prenups.
just saying what you understand. Did you know that when you go into court, all crime is in commerce? People don't know this.
Yeah, you were mentioning this
All
earlier.
crime is in commerce. In other words, I'm telling you, all criminality, period. If you're stealing a bubble gum, that's wrong, and that's commercial. That's commerce. And you're going to pay. You're going to pay. If they catch you, you're going to pay. and if you shoot somebody, that's commerce. Why? Because their body was a security on the stock market, and you just screwed up somebody's security, which screws up the stock market. Now they got to go in and take that stock off the stock market because you killed it. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it's commerce. This is why you have to pay the public price for crime. But what people don't know is that there is in every court in North America, most people do not know this. Did you know that when you go to a court in North America or Canada, when you go to court, the judge is paid by an insurance company if he can find you guilty of a crime, especially if he can find you guilty of a felony. The insurance company pays him a large sum of money at the end of the year for every single person that he could put into jail. Every single person.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
He's incentivized then? So he's incentivized to send you to jail or to prison.
He's being paid. He's being paid. Now,
okay.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah,
listen to me.
Sorry.
The court system is called CRIS. C-R-I-S. That's a court insurance company that pays judges to find you guilty and put you in jail. CRIS is an insurance company. It's C-R-I-S. It stands for Court Registry Investment System. Court Registry Investment System. Meaning the judges get paid every time they can find you guilty of something. They get a little kickback from the insurance company. And at the end of the year, they get a nice big fat check for all the poor suckers that they threw in jail. They get a kickback. They get paid. And
why is this company doing that?
Because your body as a security on the stock exchange.
Oh, they want to keep you safe.
So they want to own your body. And therefore your body is 80% water. 79% water is your body. Therefore, when you were born, you came out of your mother's water. Her water broke. When your mother's water broke, you were born. You came out. Therefore, you are considered on the stock market as a maritime admiralty product.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
And
nuts.
the male in the marriage, your father, he manufactured. He was the manufactured. And your mother was in labor, producing the profit.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Producing the profit that he manufactured. So when he manufactures, you belong to him. No, you belong to the government. When you are born, you are a maritime admiralty product under international law. You need to understand how the world really works. Let me show you something. There are only two kinds of law on the earth. Two kinds of law. One is called the law of the land, and we've heard that term, the so-and-so, this is the law of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you use that term, law of the land? Because there are two laws. the law of the land and the law of water, because that's all there is on the earth is land or water. And since people don't live in water, we live on land. Therefore, the law of the land is called the common law of a country. The law of the land is the law of the people who live on a particular piece of land. So that when you go to a particular city or a particular country, you need to realize you don't live like you do where you come from. You're in a different state, a different country. You live like those people do. You want to live there, you better wear the same clothes they wear, eat the same food, and live the way they live. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. You don't come to somebody else's country and go live your way. You don't live your way. You want to live your way? Yeah, go home if you want to live your way. And so that's why we say when you come to our country, you live like us. You want to come to our country and eat our food and live like us and drive our new cars? Yeah, well, then you have to respect our laws and respect our women, respect the way that we live. Don't mistreat us because you're coming into our home and we built our home and you're coming in to take advantage of it? No, I don't think so. So you need to understand that when you have two kinds of law, the law of the land as opposed to the law of the sea, the law of water. And since you are 80% water, you are under the law of water. The law of the land is the people who live on that land, their customs. That's the law of the land. But the law of water is called maritime law. We get that from like the mermaid. Mermaid lives in the sea. A mer means the sea, water. That's why we say that the sea, as it comes in, the waves come in and go out. The waves come in and go out. Well, that's the way money works. Money comes in, money goes out. You can damn well sure that if any money comes in, it's going to go out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's a flow. It's a continual flow of money. And this is why we put our money in a bank. Because the word bank, where do you find banks? You find a bank on each side of a river. That's called a river bank. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency.
Oh my goodness.
Money is liquid asset. It's liquid asset. Mm-hmm. It's money. It's common. This is why we say money goes through your hands like water. No, money is water.
It's right there in the language.
It's right there.
Right. So money is water. And this is why when you came out of your mother's water, you were born. You are a maritime product. You came out of your mother's water. What are we talking about here? Where does this come from? You go back to the Roman Empire. When the in the ancient Roman world, all the governments made big money off of shipping. The big shipping, international shipping around the world is what makes governments wealthy. I mean, when you get these big oil tankers coming in, you get these big steamers coming in with $800 million worth of Toyotas on board. Yeah, well, Japan's going to make $800 million today. Why? From you. Because you just accepted $800 million worth of their product, and you will pay them. God help you if you don't pay them. And this is why when the ship pulls in, all ships are female. The captains of a ship, airship, rocket ship, sailing ship, it don't matter. If it's a ship, it's female by law. That's why the captains will always say, "Oh, she's a good ship. She's very seaworthy. Yeah, she's been very good. You know, she's always been there for us." She, S-H-E, she is a good ship. Why? Because she delivers the product. This is why the captain's on the airplane is called a captain, because you are the capital. Capital is money, and you are making the company money, and he has to produce, he's got to transport you. That's his job, to make damn sure he transports you safely, because you are a stock on the New York Stock Exchange. And the company is going to make a lot of money off of you if they transport you safely. You don't want to have any problems with the airplane. You better make sure that you transport the people safely. Why? Because they represent water, maritime admiralty product. They came out of the mother's birth canal, and they came out and the water broke. This is why if you're going to be a Christian and you want to be born again, you have to go back into your mother's water. You have to go back into Mother Earth or Mother Nature. You go back into Mother Earth's water and you come out. Well, that's what you did a long time ago. When you were born, you were inside your mother's water and then you came out. So you were born. No, you just got me born again because you came out of your mother's water. That's why you get baptized, because it's your mother's water. But the point I want to make is that when the ship comes in, ships are called she, meaning it's female. So when she comes in, she's bringing $800 million worth of TVs or automobiles or whatever the hell the stuff is they're bringing in. And that means we in America are going to take on a bill of $800 million we got to come up with. So we got to sell this to the people and get that money and send it back to Japan because we owe them $800 million. So when the ship comes in, as we call it, she and when she parks, when she comes in, she parks where the ship is sitting is called a berth, B-E-R-T-H. So if you're going to catch a ship somewhere, you got to find out where is the berth, because she is sitting in her berth. And therefore, every product, every car, every television, whatever it is that comes off that ship, she is responsible for delivering that product. So that product has to have its own certificate of manifest. It has to have its own birth certificate, because that's when you were born, you get a birth certificate. Why? Because it tells the owners of you, the $8.5 million on the stock market, tells them what color you are, and how big are they? Do they have six point or eight cylinders or six? Do they have air conditioning or what? Is it blue or brown or black or white or what? Because we're buying this person. We own him on the stock market. We want to know, does he have air conditioning? Does he have two hands? Yes. Does he have, what color is he? How much does he weigh? And so those are your vital signs. That's the same thing you get on when you're buying a car. It tells you how much it weighs, what color it is, whether it's got 4 doors or 2. Why? Because we want to know that. We're paying for the damn thing. And so this is why you have a birth certificate. A birth certificate comes from the very word birth, which is where the ship sits when it comes into harbor. And that's why the birth certificate has to be signed by the dock. The dock has to sign your birth certificate, because that's where the ship is sitting. It's in the dock.
Yeah. And it's, it's right in front of us with the language, but we don't see it unless we do a little bit of digging of history and where these words come from.
So, really quick, I'm not so sure about other languages, but is English's language structured around almost like this kind of financial system? Like our very language, everything that we say, it seems to me that we are completely we're completely encompassed by monetization, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. English is a designed language. English was designed by the priests in monasteries a long time ago in Europe. They came up with a kind of language which they wanted the people to understand. It puts you in a different state of mind. That's why in the Orient, Chinese do not think like Americans. In Mexico, the Mexicans do not think like Americans. because you have to understand the language of the people as to how they see things and how they react to things. Well, know their language. And the way their language works is the way they see things. That's how they can communicate. Well, in America, we see things completely different. Why? Because English is a design language. We're designed to run the damn world, period. The white man has decided how to run the world. You get everybody on the earth to understand English, and they begin to now think in terms of money, political power, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's the mentality of the language. We look at everything in English as to how much, what do I get? What's in it for me? I give you something, yeah, what do I get? Because if I'm giving you something and I'm not getting anything, I'm going to take you out. Because it's just bad business. So I'm saying, yes, English is a design language so that you can understand how the world works. And today, English is spoken everywhere in the world. Yeah. More and more of the world is speaking English because one day the whole world is going to speak English. And that means all over the world, mankind will finally understand how we think in Washington, D.C., how we run the world, period. And that's why we have banks.
Yeah.
You have banks because they're called river banks. And where does the word bank come from? It comes from the word bench. Look it up in a Latin dictionary. In Latin, a bank is referred to as a bench. Why? Because in ancient Rome, that's the way people did business. If you go into town to buy something in the ancient Roman Empire, you will see people sitting on pillows, and they have a bench in front of them, and they're selling apples or whatever it is they're selling. And if you want to buy it, you reach down, and then you give them the money and lay it on the bench. And so banks were called benches because that's why if you are told to go to court and come to court because you've been charged, you use your card, you've been charged something, and you don't show up, they will issue a bench warrant. The court can have a bench warrant, meaning it's a bank warrant. The bank was going to make some money off of you, but you didn't show up. The cops don't care, but the banks care. That's why the judge rules for the bank. He sits on the bench. The bench is a bank in Latin. This is why he sits up high and you stand down here. You have to look up to the law. He looks down on you. And so, why? Because he represents the bank, and you don't mess with the money. The mafia taught us that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anybody who runs the bank, don't mess with them. They control your money, period.
Yeah,
So-
it seems like the English language to the court system and the law, everything is designed. And I was wondering if you can explain how maybe secret societies or the Freemasons or whoever's controlling this thing, how it all ties together. You know, it seems like it's staring at us, but we can't, like the general public can't grasp that this is all designed.
That's right, exactly. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah.
And so once you realize everything in your world has been around for thousands of years, and you were a baby a few years ago, and you came into this world and you didn't know what's going on because you're a baby. And how would you know what's going on? You just listen to the elders and listen to the people who are in charge, never realizing as a little 3-year-old, you don't realize the people you're listening to are very important. The adults that you're listening to, they don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. They're ignorant, ill-informed, self-centered, egotistical, and stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. That's why they got to go to court, and that's why their children are on drugs, and their marriage is falling apart, and they're going to prison. That's why they're in jail. Why? Because they don't know what the world is going on, and they're trying to tell you how to live. And you're stupid enough to buy into it because you're too young to realize these people don't know what's going on. Why should I listen to them? a lot of young people are waking up to that and becoming very rebellious. I don't give a damn what the adults say. We want to think on our own, do our own research, and find out how the world really works. That's why I do what I do, because I'm trying to explain to the young people of this world how the world really works. It don't work the way you think it does.
Well, I feel there's a lot of propaganda nowadays, and strictly it's aimed at children because they know that's who is easiest to influence. It's
right.
It's tough. It's actually tough to really deal with it and to try to shelter away kids from that stuff.
And
You're right.
it's like everything you're taught is, and here's the interesting thing too, especially when it comes to, say, media. Everything you're taught, the people who are creating this media, most of them don't even realize that the messages that they're trying to teach children are not their own, if that makes sense, right?
That's right. That's
They were
exactly
just
right.
they were just so indoctrinated from a young age that these are the things that they believe are true, so they're going to try to pass on this information. And I'm assuming this is part of the reason why these secret societies and organizations have been so successful for so long, right? Is that they've been able to have the information be passed through generations.
That's precisely right. That's how it works.
Exactly.
The police know that you don't know. So they know that you just signed the ticket and pay the ticket because you don't know what's going on. You don't have the faintest idea in the world how this stuff really works. But the federal judges do. And if you go into federal court and you start using certain terms and words that the judge knows what you're talking about, and he don't want no part of this, he will put this off, and you'll be the last person of the day that he will deal with. Puts this off later. Why? Because I don't want people hearing what this guy is talking about, because if it ever gets out on the streets and people find out what's really going on in a court, and how this whole thing is a game you play with tennis on a court, basketball on a court, and you find out the whole thing is a game, and the game is working against you, just like when you walk into Vegas, you're walking in with your money. And a fool and his money are soon parted. You're walking into the game and you don't know how this game is being played, Jack, and we're going to take you for everything you value. Anything you're worth, we're going to take it from you. Why? Because you don't know how to play the game. It's just a game. And so that's the way the world works.
Yeah, it seems like it's really basically everything you've been talking about. It summarizes to, knowledge is power. If you don't know what's going on, then whoever does know has the upper advantage on you.
Isn't that always the way it is?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the older guys pick on the younger girls, because the girls don't know. They're just impressionable. They don't know. The older guy has his own ideas about how this relationship's going to end, but not the girl. She doesn't know. Why? Because she's innocent and young. The older guys have been through life. They know what they're doing. And that's why you get the people like Epstein, who's a billionaire, and he can dazzle young girls, little teenage girls, with a couple of $100, while he's worth $2 billion.
Yeah.
And so...
And then when they arrest him, all of a sudden, he commits suicide. And a lot of people are protected that way.
I think somebody helped him to commit suicide.
Yeah.
It's a little suspicious, right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's controversial.
I have a question, actually. It's funny that you ended up in this topic, but from what I've seen, especially in the media recently, you always find these high level, like high government officials, higher up people, actors, people with power and money. There's always a connection to them and child sex and trafficking and molestation. It's a repetitive pattern that I've noticed, and
of course,
from what I'm not sure if I completely understand, but it seems to me that there's some sort of connection between that and ritualism and spirituality and magic. What precisely is, I don't know if you have the answers, I'm asking, I'm hoping, but what precisely is the connection between, doing these horrible things to children and power? Why does this always happen? Why do you always find people in power having sex with kids. What's going on?
It's very, very obvious and simple once you understand. The most profoundly important motivation in the male is sex. Period.
Yeah.
And so women feel, men think. Keep that in mind. Men think while women feel. The woman has to feel that she's in love. The man don't need to feel he's in love. He's just looking for an entertainment for the night. Mm-hmm. So there's a big difference between love and sex. In ancient Rome, though, in the ancient Latin language, sex was not spelled that way. In ancient Rome, sex was six. Six was the number of a man in the Bible. That's why women say, oh, I got his number. I know what he's after. I got his number. The number is 6. The Bible says the number of a man is 6. 6 in Latin is translated today in English to be sex, not six. So sex is a number. That's why guys talk about the girls, yeah, she's a hot little number. Yeah, a number. 6. Sex. And so sex is connected with political power. That's the way the human mind thinks. The male is in charge. He's going to manufacture. And the woman is to receive. She's to receive, she's not going to decide nothing. The man decides. And so that's the way politics works. It's the male ego, the promotion of power through the man. And this is how the world works. All the wars are fought by young men. Young men love to fight. Why? Because they got so much energy and they're being driven by sex. And so that's why the older guys like myself do not go in the army, because we know too damn much. You want me to go in the army? Yeah, the first one I'm going to kill is you, because you putting me on. So I'm not going to China to fight anybody. I'm going to fight you, because I know who you really are. And I know what you're doing with me, and I'm not buying it. So that's why you don't have older guys going in the military. Why? Because we know what's going on. Give it to the young guys. They like to prance around in their uniform in front of the girls, and the girls think they're wonderful, and the guys think they're so hot. But the older guys who run the planet, they know, send a kid out there, he'll get his brains blown out. Why? Because he's just a like Henry Kissinger said, military guys are just cannon fodder. We just use them for wars. We just use them to fight our enemies. People who don't go along with us, I'll send you out to go kill them. Teach him a lesson for me. Me, I'm too old. I'm going to be with my girlfriends in the Bahamas having cocktails and living in my multi-million-dollar home. You go over and fight in Vietnam, because my drugs are over there in the Golden Triangle, and China's selling me the drugs, but they're ripping me off. They're costing me too much, so I want to go into Vietnam and take over the drug fields for myself. You go over and get it for me. And if you get killed, that's your problem, because you're so damn stupid. But I'm not going. I'll pay somebody else to go. And so that's why the old guys don't go into military. We want the young guys, because they are young, their bodies are strong, they got plenty of energy, and they don't know shit from Shinola. They don't know what they're doing, and we just send them over and let them do whatever we tell them to do.
I feel like Hollywood actually has a big influence on this. Hollywood and society.
Yeah, definitely. It's your relation to power and sex. Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Definitely, you can feel it. You
Violence.
Can feel that sex. This sexual imagery. When you find out in the news the sexual perversion, sexual trafficking, it's tied to power.
Precisely. But that's what sex is. It's a feeling of power in the male over the female. It's a power position. That's why rape in prison. It's just a feeling of power over all the other prisoners. And you don't get power with people who are equal to you. You don't find guys raping other guys who are like them. You find them raping young guys, young people who are not like them. You mess with other guys who are your age and been around like you, yeah, they might cut your throat and kill you. You better just play on the young ones and leave the old guys alone because they know who you are and what you're doing. So you got to understand that's the way government works.
Well, yeah.
So even when you find like scandals in politics with classic one was Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton. It's a power thing. It's even in politics they're using sex for power.
Bet on it. That's the way it works. So when you get into politics, they will set you up in a hotel with some young girl, some young boy, whatever it is you're into. And what you don't know is you're being filmed in the other room through a two-way mirror. So the mirror in your bedroom, they're looking at you and watching you and filming you. Why? Because later on next month when they want you to do something, the government calls you and they want you to do this or that for them. And you say, no, I don't like that. I don't think so. Not me. And they say, well, you need to come see something first. Come look at this. You see yourself that they've been filming you. You want this shit to hit the streets? You want us to put this out on television? No. Then what are you going to do? You're going to go with us or aren't you?
Exactly. Classic case was the CIA, recording Martin Luther King's affair and threatening him to expose it if he didn't stop, his speeches and his protests.
That's right. That's right. So we're not asking you to stop. We're telling you to.
And then if you still say no, that's when you get, iced.
That's when you get what they call an Epstein.
Yeah.
The Epstein, yeah.
Well, the Epstein case was really interesting because they put him on suicide watch for a few days while he was in prison. All of a sudden, they take him off, and his cellmate happens to be out of the cell, and he hangs himself, which means there was some sort of rope or belt in there that he could have done that with. Now, whether or not he was directly killed, we won't know, but it's just so unbelievably suspicious that that everyone just happened to not see it. And also, no pictures of the body. Again, the government's great at never showing you what happened.
But you know what the funny thing is that everybody went to work the next day, got their paycheck, went for their coffees, watched baseball on TV.
What did George Carlin said? George Carlin said on the stage, everybody sees it, nobody seems to worry, nobody seems to care.
Exactly.
Just nobody seems to worry as long as you're getting your cold beer and watching your ball game and you're happy with your girlfriend. Nobody seems to care, but you have no idea in the world what's really going on in this country and how your number is going to come up one day and they're going to have enough of you and now they're going to get rid of you. You'll get a knock on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes, are you so-and-so? Yes, come with us. You're under arrest. You will go into the car and nobody will ever hear of you again. Your family, your friends will never hear of you again. Why? Because you don't care. You just go along to get along, just like all the other chickens in the coop and just like all the other cows on the farm. And they're going to take you to McDonald's and you're going to be a hamburger. And you don't care. It doesn't matter to you. You don't care. As long as you got cold beer and you're entertained, and your team is winning, and you got what you want, you don't care what's happening to other people. Well, one day they're going to come for you, and believe me, when they come for you, nobody else in town's going to care. Mm-hmm. They're just happy they didn't come for them yet.
They look the other way.
Yeah.
On the topic of entertainment, this is a little bit of an off question. I wrote it down. I really wanted to ask. So, like, obviously you like George Carlin, but in Matrix of Power, you were talking about the perversion of media, how a lot of violent imagery appears, sex, it's rampant. But I'm sure that you at least watch some stuff, some shows, and some media. What kind of media do you watch? Is there do you watch comedy? I know it's a bit of a random question, but I'm just interested in knowing.
I have not been to a movie in so many years I don't even remember. The last movie I went to in a theater was Lawrence of Arabia, which I thought was an incredible movie. But after that, I have never been to a movie since. I don't watch television. I wouldn't have a TV in my house because I know too much. I know who came up with the idea of television. I know what's happening with the TV. There's a book out there that will blow your mind. It's called 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television by Jerry Mander, M-A-N-D-E-R, Mander. Jerry Mander was the head of a San Francisco advertising agent for the biggest corporations in the world, for Ford Motor Company, General Motors, all the big corporations hired Jerry Mander to promote them on television. And he wrote a book called 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television, in which he outlined 4 things that television has done to the world that you have no idea about. And if you had any sense at all, you'd turn off the television forever. And another thing I thought was interesting, he said, turn on your television and turn off the sound and just watch with your eyes and understand what is going on in front of you. Watch the mannerisms of the people talking. Watch the way they communicate with each other. No sound, just watch it. Like the spirit world does with us. The spirits watch you. They're watching everything you do, and it's an incredible story. They're called watchers in the Bible. The spirits that do nothing but watch you and report on what you're doing and who you are and what you're thinking. And this is how God keeps control over the human race. Because there are spirits around us. We call them demons or devils or spirits or angels or whatever you want to call them. They're called watchers in the Bible. They are there to do nothing but watch you. And so when you watch how people act on television with no sound, you don't get involved in it. You're listening to what's going on, you get involved. I don't want to get involved. Just turn off the sound, and I want to watch the way people communicate. Watch your eyes. Yeah.
It'll be obvious that
Precisely.
there's some sort of message or some sort of imagery they want to put in your mind.
Precisely. And I don't want to buy into it, so I'm not going to listen to it. But I want to watch the way they are doing it. I want to watch what they're doing and see the connection with the symbols and the words and the terms. That's why every night on television we have the nightly news. And you will notice that there's always a female, a beautiful girl, and a very official-looking guy, and they're the news anchors. But what you don't know is what I was told when I was in Los Angeles in my office. I had a major television anchorman come to my office in Los Angeles. He worked for one of the top 3 corporations, the 3 networks. And he said, Jordan, I've heard you. I just thought I'd like to come meet you and say hello and tell you something you don't know. He said, in order for me, because I know him, he's a very famous man. I was amazed he's coming to see me. And he said, in order for me to do my job, I had to sign a contract. I had to sign a piece of paper that said I give up all of my rights as a person. I give up all of my rights in order to have this job. And that if I say anything on television that's not on the television prompter, on the screen in front of me, you know how it works? They have a screen in front of the camera, and the camera's behind the screen. It's a two-way screen. They can see through that screen to you. But you can, when you're looking back, you're only looking at a screen. And they're typing out what you need to say. And so you look like you're talking right into the screen, and you know exactly what you're talking about. No, you're reading the damn thing. You're reading it, and they're recording you. And so he told me I signed a contract that said if I say anything on television that is not on that monitor, I can be arrested and put in jail immediately because I've given up all my rights to be on television. So therefore, when you see the nightly news from NBC Nightly News, just remember that chump, that butt-kissing chump that's on there with his news, and he's all dressed well, and everybody looks at him as he's so important. No, he's not important. He's a whore, the prostitute that's being paid money to do what his bosses want him to do.
There's this video on YouTube a while back. I don't know if you saw it, but basically, one guy supercut every single major news broadcaster in America into one video, and they are all saying the exact same stories,
same words,
same way,
words.
the exact same stuff. And I think somebody else. This was a while back. The problem is I wish I had sources on this, but this was like my off-time meeting.
I saw it myself.
Yeah, so that's it. Basically, the government tells them, here's your news, and this is what you tell people. And if you don't, you go to jail, and you pay the price.
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily the government is telling, because the government doesn't tell, NBC to talk trash about the government. You know, maybe the government tells Fox what to say, but
I think it's more local news stations, from what I'm aware. Is like there's a set like bundle of news that every news station gets every day, and they're like these are the stories you have to say today, and then the rest of your time you use it on whatever, play your shows and your sports and stuff.
Play for your audience.
But there's certain things that we want people to care about. Now, why that happens to be like squirrels jet skiing across the water, I don't know why, but they choose some really strange topics. Maybe it's just to delude you, keep you away from
They will never ever on television, they will never hear anything ever about what's really going on in America and how it works. You ain't never gonna hear that. The only person who's got guts enough to stand up in public and talk about it has been me and a few others who have died doing it. And believe me, I am under continual observation. Government is watching me. Everybody's watching me because they know that I know, and I've been told by people in the military, we're just interested to see what you're going to do with this. We want to see how far you're going to go because we're watching every word you say. And we're curious to see how far you're going to put yourself out there. And so I tell them, look, you know as well as I do, I know the whole story. I know exactly who you are, who's paying you, where you come from, what the symbols mean, the colors. I know exactly what's going on because I've lived in Hollywood for some 60 years. I know how the world really works. And I know that 99 and 9/10% of the world have no idea in the world who you really are and what you're really doing. But I do, and you damn well know it. That's why they're always watching me and shutting me down and threatening any radio station's going to have me on because everybody pretty well in power knows who I am, and they know that I know. They don't know how I know because I haven't told it in public. But I know things that other people don't know because I know the people who are involved. You should hear some of my stories. I could never tell you in public.
There was one story. Sorry for interrupting. Honestly, I'd love to hear these stories. If you ever want to have a private Skype call, I'd love to hear these stories. But there was one story you're talking about how a man came to you with a premonition about two men in black tuxedos taking you up 13 steps, and they were going to give you a choice.
Yeah, well, that never happened.
It hasn't happened yet? Hasn't happened yet? No? Okay, no. Because you're alluding to the...
I know all about it, and I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry because I talked about that in Switzerland. And I was videotaped in Switzerland talking about some of my experiences. And I told the photographer, there are two things I'm going to talk about, because he was a personal friend, and he wanted me to tell some really strange stories that I was aware of. And he said, if you tell me not to play it, I won't ever play it. Well, I told him there are two stories I don't want played. I'll tell you, and you can record it. When I die, then you can put it out there. But you don't put it out while I'm alive, because other people will be hurt with me. And that was one of the stories where he made a mistake and put that out there. That story was never supposed to be told.
And
I did not want that told.
Because it was told, it might have actually skewed the premonition itself and prevented it from happening. Because now, say there was, I know this is completely hypothetical, but say there was there were men that were in fact going to do such a thing and bring you and give you the choice. If they saw that, they wouldn't appear before you, because now their existence has been revealed, and they don't want to make, if that confirmation became true, then it would be almost absolute evidence that something is going on. They can't allow for evidence to happen.
Not only that, but the people that will be coming to see me know that I know, and they know who told me. And so they're going to deal with one of their own who came out and told me something I wasn't supposed to know. And so by me talking in public, I'm putting that person's life in danger, because the guys who are planning this will know there's no way I would have known unless I was told by one of them. There's no way I would have known that. And so they now know somebody's talking to Jordan outside of school. Yeah. Somebody's telling him things he's not supposed to know.
Well, that brings up, that brings up our I guess in secret societies. I was wondering this, like, because I know I've seen on YouTube a Freemason. He tells people that he's a Freemason. This guy named Randall Carlson. He's a geologist, and he's exposing a lot of the corruption in Egyptology and showing, using geology, that these pyramids, or the Great Sphinx specifically, actually is older than what people say. So I'm just wondering, like, in these secret societies, there must be, people who are playing the other side, helping out Mr. Maxwell here, giving him information. That's why I was kind of wondering, is there even a way for these people to do a resistance, Like someone like Randall Carlson, he seems like he's trying to, expose a lot of things.
Yeah, but the problem is, it's like you being in a very, very fearful gang. If you are a member of a gang that you don't suspect, but is violent, they catch you doing anything you're not supposed to do, you're a dead man walking, and you know it. So the people who are like me are out there on their own and by themselves, taking their life and their lives into their own hands by going out publicly and talking. And most people hearing me will never understand the difference between being entertained on a radio show and putting your life on the line. If I were to come on your show and tell you all of the things that I have done that you don't know anything about, and who I did it with, and what I know, and I tell you all the secrets that you would not believe if you heard them. But I was there as an eyewitness and I saw it. And if I were to tell you, that would make tremendous radio. Your show would be on the top of the charts. Yeah, it makes great radio. You got Jordan Maxwell to talk about the real stuff. But what's going to happen to me, because I'm the one that shot my mouth off and told you things you're not supposed to know.
Well, that's
so while it was great radio for you, you find out tomorrow they found Jordan Maxwell's body in Los Angeles, where he committed suicide by shooting himself in the back of the head 3 times.
Yeah, I find that always funny. It's like, some guy just happened to commit suicide after a big expose. I wonder why. Oh, I wonder why.
And you know what's the sad thing about it too? Even if you exposed all the things that you know, people wouldn't care. They'd go to the work the next day.
They'd go to work the next day, and 2 weeks from now, they wouldn't remember anything I said. But I'm dead. I'm a walking man. I'm walking dead.
So that's why I find podcasts like this very important, where like we're not talking about anything that's going to get you killed, but we're talking about ways. Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can do an interview after, just personal, just to talk. But for now, I don't want you to get hurt. You're a wonderful man, and you're helping people. But this podcast specifically, especially when we're talking about English and the roots of words, it's helping, if anyone's really paying attention, it's helping them unearth truths that they have been blinded to for a very long time.
Yeah, it's helping people start to think for themselves.
And like without the spectacle that I'm sure would come from from your stories, from the first-hand accounts, without the spectacle, we should still be able to try to help people, because that's mostly what this interview is about. One, it's for Carlos, because Carlos,
huge fan.
He's the one who showed me you as well. The other is for just telling people, like, hey, there's a world out there that you're being purposely misled by. Like, they're purposely trying to keep you dumb and quote unquote happy. And if you can help enlighten yourself and enlighten others, we might be able to get through this together and craft a new world that isn't so corrupt. Now, how long that will take, I don't know, but hopefully it happens sometime soon. Probably not within my lifetime, at least.
Well, it's the old saying, the truth will set you free. And hopefully getting people awake to the truth, maybe one day it'll set us all free,
Well, but something? I think that Carlos and you guys are very brave to be having me on the radio to start with. And that's why I would love to be able to come clean and tell you everything, because I respect what you're doing, and you want to know, I could tell you.
That made
I'm
my
not
heart
going to
smile.
tell you in public, because if I told you in public, you would be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's,
and your
enough.
family, your wife and your children would be in trouble. And believe me, the people I would tell you about are not to be played with.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk with gang leaders, and I know them in Los Angeles, the guys at the top, you don't mess with them. You think you're being cute and playing with them, you're going to find out they're not laughing. They're going to deal with you, and God help your ass when they find you. And so I know that this is the way the world works, and I know who I'm up against, and that's why I respect what you're doing, and I'd like to talk with you in private and tell you some things.
Much. Thank you so much.
I think that the least we could do, and I think this is what you're doing a great job with, Mr. Maxwell, is you're making people pay attention to the small details, to really think about just normal everyday speech, physical behaviors. And that's what I got from looking at all your videos. You learn so much.
Have you ever heard the term "the devil's in the details"?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Exactly. No, they're saying.
Of course.
But
right
people, I find that people aren't really looking for details that could drastically change the world. I think you almost shut off to it, and that's why you guys were saying, the next day no one cared about Epstein, or the next day no one's gonna care about us. No one wants to care.
And even when I'm not gonna bring him up by name, but I went out for dinner with my buddy, good friend of mine, and I started talking to him about the Epstein case, and I think he knows more than he lets on, because he was scared talking about it in public. People are, the second you bring this stuff up, like they won't even say you're wrong.
Like
they'll just say
it's like a denial.
He said to me, he was like, "Oh, well, that's something that we can't control. We can control, like, maybe we can do something about the low-level conspiracies, like, Toyota and manufacturing, errors, stuff like that." And he was telling me about those kind of things, but I'm like, I understand that it all comes from the same place, but there's a much bigger problem going on than Toyota cars. But
right.
He was scared. He didn't want to talk about it. So even when you go in public and you have people that are listening, you bring up too much. They on the inside know something's up, but they refuse to allow it in because they're scared. I'm scared too. I'm horrified. I go to sleep scared, thinking about these things all the time. But there's only one way to face fear, and that's to stare it in the face. So you have to go out and you have to get it.
I've been staring it in the face for a long time.
60 years. 60 years.
You're fighting it head on. Mm-hmm. So that's admirable.
Let me tell you something. When I was married, I got married in 1967, 52 years ago. And when I got married, my wife was working for a mafia don. Just like Marlon Brando in the movie, Godfather. And my wife was working for a mafia don, and I learned a lot from that association. When I got married, I learned a lot. Of course, I was a lot younger. I was in my 20s, and I thought I was on the way to knowledge. I thought I knew what I was doing. I found out what the world is really like, and it's very, very frightening. Even though I was treated very well, I was always very respected and treated well, but I learned a lot that I cannot talk about in public, about how the world really works. And as I said, I could tell you some things off the air that'll probably knock you out of the chair. But I'm not about to tell you in public, because it will not only knock you out of the chair, but somebody else is going to knock you out.
Exactly. And I don't want that. I don't want to be knocked out. I don't want to be knocked out.
We know nothing.
Yeah, I'm young. I want to keep living my life.
Make more podcast episodes.
Exactly. Yeah. If you, I know this is a little early to say, but if you'd ever like to come back onto our show, our hands are open to you anytime. You've been a lovely guest, and we'd love to have you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do we have a little bit more time?
Oh, yeah. We got
honestly, we have as much time as you want. This isn't.
Well, let me tell you a couple of things. One is that nobody in North America owns anything. If you walk into an auto agency with $50,000 in cash or in a cashier's check from the bank for $50,000, and you walk in to buy a brand new car and you lay the money down and you buy it. When you drive out with the keys and you drive out, you own that car because you paid cash for it. No, you don't own nothing. You ain't never owned nothing, and you ain't never gonna own nothing. Why? Because you don't understand the way money works. Let me explain to you what you're really doing when you buy something of importance. Suppose you are a painting contractor and I call you and say, I want my office painted. You come over and you look the job over, and then you give me a written estimate as to what it's going to cost to paint my office. If I don't mind the price and I like the price, I say, okay, I agree. Now it's a piece of business. It's commercial business. You are a contractor, and I have contracted with you. You do the job, and I pay you. That's the way it works. We're talking business, nothing personal here, okay? So when you're through with the job and I like it, you do what? You hand me a bill for $100. Say you tell me it'll cost $100 to paint my room. When you're through, you give me a bill that I sign, and it says I owe you $100. You're expecting me to pay the bill. So I reach in my pocket and open my wallet. I pull out a $100 bill and I give it to you. I just paid you, and you're happy because I gave you the 100. I didn't give you anything. You gave me a bill for $100. I gave you a $100 bill. If you had given me a bill for $20, I'd give you a $20 bill.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Anything. If you want to give me a bill, I'm going to give you some bills. You want a $100 bill? Yeah, I'll give you a $100 bill. Now you owe me, because that's a bank note, and you owe me 100. So since you owe me 100 and I owe you 100, we'll call it even. We'll just keep records of it. This is why you have to have a bank record. You have to have the credit card record, because I didn't pay you anything. I gave you a bill which was equal to the bill you gave me. You give me a $20 bill, I'll give you a $20 bill. Now we're even. You've been paid. No, you weren't paid nothing. I gave you a bill that nullified the debt. So therefore, in America, you cannot pay a bill. You can discharge a debt. You cannot pay a bill. You discharge a debt. So when you give me a bill for $100, I give you a $100 bill. I discharge the debt. It's like walking across a carpet and touching a piece of metal, and you get a shock. Yeah, that's what we call a sticker shock. It's a discharging. It's a discharge of the electrical charge. So I have discharged the debt. I don't owe you anything. You owe me. You pay me, I'll pay you. So I paid you with a equal debt. So that's the way money works. So when you walk in to buy a new car, say it's worth $50,000, and you go into the auto agency to buy this new car, and you don't have the money, what you do is that car, the paperwork on the car, the commercial paperwork for that car says that car has been appraised by a government appraiser at the pier where the ship was, when they took the car off. The appraiser for the state said that car was worth $50,000, period. So therefore, that paper work on the car represents $50,000 in business. Okay? So when you walk into the bank and you say, I want to buy this car, and here's the car, and here's all the paperwork, the bank looks at it and says, oh, okay, I see you buying this car, it costs $50,000. We'll give you the $50,000. So they write you out a check for $50,000 and give it to you, and so they're loaning you the $50,000 to buy the car. They're not loaning you anything. They wrote a piece of paper because the law, federal law says in North America, international law says banks cannot loan money. That's the law. A bank cannot loan money. So why are you going to a bank to get a loan to buy a car when the damn law says in English banks are not allowed to loan money? So what's going on here then? Well, what happens is if I go into the bank and I put in $100,000 of my money that I've earned, I put it into the bank, and the next day you come in to buy a boat that's going to be $100,000. They give you my $100,000 I put in the bank. They give it to you to buy your boat. I don't think so. You ain't putting my money in that guy's hand. That's my money I put in that bank, and you ain't giving it to nobody, period. Because if I want my money tomorrow, it better be there. And I find out you gave it to some guy to buy his boat, the hell's going on with you? You don't give my money away like that. So banks don't loan money. So when you buy a car for $50,000, they give you a check for $50,000. Why? Because they take the pink slip, the paperwork for the car, which is worth $50,000 on the peso. It says $50,000. This is $50,000 piece of paper, and they take this piece of paper and they put it into a bank account. They don't tell you, but they open up a bank account at the bank with your name on it. That's illegal. You can't open a bank account. I can't open a bank account for you. You have to do it, not me. Because if I open a bank account using your name, I'm going to jail. I can't open a bank account in your name. And so when the banks open up a bank account in your name, they will take your signature and put it on top of a tracing board and trace your name on it. So they have written your name on the bank account because you have to sign to have a bank account. So they signed it for you. Now you have a bank account, and they put the $50,000 worth of paper into the bank account. So now you have $50,000 in credit with the bank because you got $50,000 worth of commercial paper in your bank account. Now they take that bank account and they write a check for $50,000 to the auto agency. And they give you the check, and you take it over and give it to the auto agency, and they're happy. They sold a $50,000 car and they made money, and they're happy, and you're happy because you got the new car, and the bank has happy because they screwed both of you. They
Yeah.
got the pink slip, Jackson. They got the pink slip. They
Now-
own it.
In order to pay off your newfound bill, you have to use bills of your own. You have to use your own hard work, exchanging your life basically in order to pay
Precisely.
it off. Yeah, okay. That's
With
interesting.
the interest, with interest, and that's why
Yes.
they will tell you that the first 6 or 12 payments on a new house or new car is only interest. It doesn't touch the basic amount. You're just paying the interest off at the first 12 payments. Why? Because you ain't never gonna pay off the principal. And all we care about is getting the interest on 50,000. We got the whole thing here. We
Because-
just want the interest.
The interest is the money that they're making off of you.
That's right.
Because the
That's right.
50,000 is technically they gave 50,000 to the, say in your example, to the auto dealer. They gave the 50,000 of their money to the auto dealer, but now the interest is their way of robbing you of more money. That's
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 right.
the bank's cut. And I think
That's
that's
right.
what's happening with student debt too, right? Which is like the ultimate debt because you can't even go bankrupt. You have to pay it off. So, and I know people that have paid more in interest than they've paid off their loan. The interest gets so high that they're trying to pay, like, say you do $1,000 payment, it's like $600 is interest, right? To
Right.
keep the money flowing into the bank. So then they could write more of these pink slips, right? And then just keep the cycle going. I'm assuming that's a bit of how it works. I'm guessing. I'm not too sure, but something like that.
That's how it works.
Okay.
It's just called business.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to screw you. Somebody was going to rip you off. So it might as well be us. I mean, you're so stupid. You're going to end up paying everything you own to stay alive. So somebody's going to rip you off. Might as well be me. I might as well do it. I mean, if it's that easy for me to do, all I got to do is just write out a check and give it to you, and you give it to him, and he's happy, and you're happy, everybody's happy, and especially me, I'm happy, because the next $4,000 you pay is going to be my interest, and then we can talk about the principal. And the principal I don't care about because I own the car. I got the pink slip anyway. I can always sell it.
So what happens? So say I get this $50,000 car. I eventually, with my own bills, negate the I pay back enough to now say like my debt is closed. Now, does that mean I still don't own the car?
No, you do not.
So
If you pay for 30 years on your house and you finally pay it off, you don't own it. You have what is called a financial interest in it. You do not own it. If you buy a car for $50,000, then you have what is called an equitable interest. In other words, you got an equal interest in it. You got $50,000 of your money in that car. So if I want to buy it, I don't have to buy it from the agency. I'm buying it from you. And you have an equitable interest in it. What are you talking about? Well, I got my money in it. Before you get it from me, you better pay me something first. Well, I can't pay you the whole $50,000. I don't want it all. But here's what I want. I want $35,000. And then I say, if I give you the $35,000, are you giving the car to me? Yes. Okay, so therefore, you don't own the car. You only have an equitable interest in it. You don't own your home. You have an equitable interest in it. So if somebody wants to buy it from you, they got to give you something because you put money into it. So we got to pay you. But that doesn't mean you own the property.
So does
Let me tell you why.
the bank owns it?
Let me tell you why you don't own nothing.
Okay.
You don't own your child. You don't own your home. You don't own your refrigerator. You don't own nothing. Because according to international maritime law, under British law, banking law, which America is under, according to international law, If you're going to own something, you have to buy it with what is called an allodial title. Write it down, ALLODIAL, allodial. If you buy a house with an allodial title, that means God can't touch it. You own it, period. When the Queen Mum in England purchases something, she doesn't buy it like you. She purchases only allodial title. If you're going to buy a car, buy it with an allodial title. When you go into the dealership, you tell them, I want to buy this car. And they will say, oh, okay, here's the paperwork. You say, no, I don't want that paperwork. I want it allodial. And they say, allodial? Yes. Oh, okay, let me go back. And I got to go back and get the paperwork for that. That's different. So they come back out and they got a allodial title. That means Jesus, if he comes back, can't touch this car. It's mine. I own it.
Does that mean you can't sell the car then?
I can do whatever I wish with it. Only I can do it. Only I.
Interesting.
So if I don't end up paying for the car, if I put money on the car and I buy a allodial title, if I can't pay for it, the bank can't touch it. Jesus, if he comes back, can't touch it. God cannot touch it. Period. It's allodial title, which means allodial means you own it.
So if
Period.
if I go to buy a car and I ask for the allodial title, ownership, and I go to the bank, will they give me that loan still?
I don't think so, because
Yeah.
because they know that they can never in this world ever touch that car under no conditions. It's allodial title. They can never touch it. So why would they want to finance a car that they can never touch ever again? And they know it.
This is something that people should know, and no one knows about this. I just learned. You just taught me this. People should know about these things.
That's right. Because if you want to say you own something, when you buy a piece of property, you tell the real estate people, I want to buy this allodial title. And they say, oh, okay, well, we have to go back and get a different contract. That's right. Go back and get a different contract, airhead. Because I ain't buying into your bullshit.
This is
I want an allodial title. So that when I say I own something, I damn well own it, and you know it. You can't even walk on my property.
Not even Jesus.
If you're the United Nations, come with Jesus. You can't even walk on my property because I own it. I have an allodial title. The allodial titles was something the popes in Rome came up with hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The popes in Rome came up with the idea of allodial title, and it was given only to the pope, and anything he buys, he owns, period. You don't understand? He owns it. Why? Because he is the Holy Father. Why is he called the Holy Father? Because he communicates with God. He is in Rome and he's a God Father. Get it? He is the God Father. He is the Holy Father who talks to God. Like Michael Corleone, the God Father.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you see all the politicians going to Rome, the city of brotherly love. Rome, mafiosi, underworld, Sicily, the mafia. And the mob is going over and they're kissing the Pope's ring. That's what they did in the movie, Godfather. All of them come to the Godfather's home and kiss his ring. That means I am submitting myself to you. You represent God. Whatever you say is God's word to me. I will subject myself to you. Whatever you say, that's what it is. That's what the Pope wants to hear. He's very happy with you that you finally get it and you understand. So then he blesses you. And he says, I will appoint you to be prince over England. You'll be a prince. And I've decided that. God told me to make you a prince. So now you have what is called a divine right of kings. When the king says, I have a divine right, what do you mean divine? Well, the Pope said so, and he talks to God. He's the Holy Father. He's a Godfather. Understand? And he said, I am King of England. You want to argue with that? I'll talk to the Pope about it. You'll find out the mafia is not to be messed with.
Yeah.
Whatever the Pope says it is, that's what it is. You mess with him and you mess with the mob.
Yeah.
And they're international all over the world. They will kill you so fast and make your head spin. But understand, when they kill you, they're going to kill your family and your children. They're not just going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah, you've done extensive research on religion and the history of religions. Like I find the earlier history of the church, probably like the first couple hundred years, even going into almost modern times, like right before modern times, the church was very blatant with its power. Everybody knew that it had power. But nowadays it's more of a secret thing. Like they downplay themselves a lot. I find it very interesting.
It's because they're downplaying themselves because the world of mankind is waking up to the name of the tune. And there's more poor people out there in the street with guns than there is priests. There's more people out there around the world that don't care about religion and the government and the Pope. They don't care that he's the Holy Father. They'll kill him like anybody else. You mess with their children, they'll kill you. You mess with us and we'll kill you. And so that's why today the church is more sedated. They're not really out there in your face. They're still the boss. They still run the show. But they're doing it in such a way now it's just business. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to kill you and cut your head off. They just make you run out of money and take your company from you and make you look like a fool. Mm-hmm. And they have more lawyers than they do hitmen. And so that's just the way it works. Remember the allodial title.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I'm keeping that in the back of my head, man. Yeah. That's really important.
I guess it also ties into, the church and its power. You look at like modern times, the last 100 years, all these scandals with pedophilia. Again, we're bringing it back to sex and power.
You have in the church, there's something called altar boys.
No.
Yeah. And
sacrificial pawns.
Yeah, like I don't know. I always see this. You always see this connection between, like the perversion of something. Like especially like Satanism. They have a lot of, child abuse cases, sexual molestations of kids, and you brought up a good point. That is to do with power. But it seems like in the church, who knows how long it's been happening. These kind of things, like. I don't know.
I always come back to my idea of federal prisons, state prisons. When you go in, the gang leaders in the prisons are not to be messed with. They have got their position of power by killing other people. And if you got any brains at all, you don't mess with these people. You say something out of line with them, that's the last thing you're ever going to do. They will have your head cut off and nobody's ever going to say a word. Why? Because they call the shots, period. It's like the mafia. There's a godfather, and you don't do nothing unless you pass it by the boss first. Mm-hmm. So that's the way government works. It is not here to help you. It's here to control you. And the banks are not here to help you. They're here to control what you can do and what you can't do. Let me tell you something that happened a long time ago you didn't know about. Back in 1870s, right after the Civil War, with Abraham Lincoln, the Civil War in America, after the Civil War, the United States of America was declared under international law to no longer be a country. It was decided that America is no longer going to be called the United States of America, but they didn't tell you that. That's in the law books. And the reason why is because after the Civil War, we down here in the States were a lot of things, but united was not one of them. We weren't united. We hated each other. The North hated the South. The South was killing the people in the North. The Northerns were raping and killing the people in the South. We're not united. We're enemies. And as long as you understand that, you don't come down here and mess with us, because we'll kill you if we find you. And the North said, well, the same for you, son. You come up here, we catch you up here from the South, we'll set you straight on who the boss is up here. So we were no longer a united states. We were disunited. So therefore, the politicians who run the country had to figure out, how are we going to run this country if there is no longer a United States of America? There is no longer a constitution or a Bill of Rights or any of that stuff that was under the 1776 under the United States of America law. There is no United States of America. We're disunited. We're not united. Well, then how are you going to run this country? Because somebody better run it, because you got millions of people here who want to eat and have children, and they're going to continue with their life. So you better figure out how you're going to run this country. And if you're not going to run it with a Congress that has the rights, you don't have any rights. So it was decided. It was decided that instead of calling this the United States of America, we will call this country a corporation.
No way.
We'll call it the United States Corporation. We'll incorporate it. We'll incorporate it as a corporation. And we will incorporate it in Delaware, because Delaware is a great place to have a corporation. Delaware corporations are very strong. So the people who ran this country, the bankers, the guys with the big money and all the connections, they formed a corporation called the United States Incorporated. Therefore, they said in their corporate papers that if you were a member of their corporation, you are an employee of a corporation, an employee of a foreign corporation. Why is it called foreign? Because the corporation was founded in Washington, D.C., that city. Washington, D.C. is a corporation. It's a company like Sears and General Motors, Ford Motor Company. Washington, D.C. is a company. It's a corporation. And if you are a U.S. citizen, that means you're not an American. You don't have any freedom. You don't have any protections under law. You're not an American. You are a U.S. citizen. We'll look it up in the law dictionary. It means you are an employee of a foreign corporation. Why is it foreign? Because it's not in Wyoming. It's not in California. It's in Washington, D.C. It's a corporation that runs that city. It's a company. And since it's a company, it's a corporation, and if you are in that corporation, then you are called a U.S. citizen. Now, since it's a corporation, if you come as America is like Ford Motor Company, it's a company. Now, if you slip in one night and you go to Ford Motor Company or General Motors, and you go in the back way and slip in and break a window and get inside the company, and you're not supposed to be there, they will have in-house security. They have security people watching the property. So we have in-house security. So now that we're no longer a United States of America, we don't have a constitution and we have no Bill of Rights, so don't go into any court and say, well, I have a right. As an American, I have a right. You don't have any rights. You ain't an American. You're a U.S. citizen, son. You need to go back and go to a law dictionary and look up the word U.S. citizen. U.S. citizen means it's a corporation, and I, goddamn, represent the corporation. So don't tell me what your rights are. I will tell you, you don't have no rights. You are an employee of a foreign corporation that was incorporated in Delaware back in 1870. You ain't never had no rights.
Because
don't
you're a
have no
product.
rights.
Because you're just a
are
product.
nothing. You're just a product. You're just a maritime admiralty product. And because you work for the corporation, your body is a security for the corporation. As long as you're working every day and paying your taxes and paying your bills and paying out the money that we're going to suck out of you, then you are a security to the corporation. And so the corporation is called the body social. The body social is everybody working for the corporation. And as long as you're doing your job, if you're a plumber or whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, as long as you're doing your job and you're paying your taxes to the corporation, to the company, then you are a security. And so therefore, when you retire, it means you are through with your work for the day and you're going home, you're going to retire. So when you retire, you're going home and you ain't coming back. You're going to retire. Therefore, we will give you a little piece of something to live on. We'll give you a couple of dollars to live on. So you keep your mouth shut. So we call it social security. Because you were the security for the body social. So make sure you keep your mouth shut and you're happy. We give you social security. This way you can buy your beer and buy your ball game tickets and go to the ball game and drink your beer and watch the game and stay home and sleep and do whatever you want because you're on social security. As long as you keep your mouth shut, because you're no longer a security on the body social. We have to pay you, so you're not a security. But this is why you have to have a driver's license and you have to have insurance on your car if you're going to drive. Why? Because you are a security on the New York Stock Exchange and you have to have security. And so the only security is an insurance company. So you have to have car insurance. So if anything happens to you in that car, the government doesn't have to pay you. They got to pay you to stay in a hospital. They're going to lose that much money. The government ain't going to lose no money. The insurance company will pay them. You will pay your bills. You will continue to pay your bills. You can bet your butt on that. I don't care if you're locked up in the ward for the next 2 years. You better pay your rent. You better pay your bill. How do you do that? What the insurance company pays your bills for you. That's why you have to have insurance when you're buying a car, because the government doesn't want to pay your bills. They want you to pay your bills. You are a security for the body social. So you get social security at the end when you want to retire, which means you're going home and you're not going to come back. So once you understand how the system works, what I was going to tell you is that when the Roman Empire under the Caesars, if you go back into history books, when we read about ancient Rome, the ancient Roman Empire, we are told in the history books that the center of power for the Roman Empire was in the city of Rome. Rome was the city of power. It was like Washington, D.C. for America. It's like the center for power in Canada. It's one city. That's where the power comes from. And so in Rome, that center for power in Rome was called Capitoline Hill. Look it up in the dictionary. Seat of power is called Capitoline. Capitline, Capitoline Hill. And the history books say that each morning Caesar, emperor of the empire, would go up on Capitoline Hill, and he would be ahead of the government of Rome. And where was the government of Rome? It was in the Roman Senate. The Romans had a Senate, and the Senate was up on the hill, Capitol Hill. We dropped the line. It's not Capitol Line anymore. It's Capitol Hill. And today we hear every night on the news, we're up on the hill. The Senate did this is not today, up on the hill. And the president was up on the hill. Up on the hill is the Senate, the Roman Senate. And the people of Rome is be guided by the Senate of Rome up on Capitol Hill. So that today, the world we live under is a Roman Empire. America is the new Roman Empire. And this is why we have a Senate up on the hill. And we have presidents who act like God, because they're Caesar. They are the emperor of the empire. You don't think so? When the president does something, the whole world better listen. Because if America gets a little cold, everybody else is going to get TB and die. You cause problems for the president, he'll cause some problems for your country. And he can kill anybody he damn well pleases to by politics. He can withhold your food. He can surround your country so you can't get any food or water in, and now you want to mess with him, he's going to mess with you. So that's the way it works. Caesar is up on the hill over the Senate of Rome, the Roman Senate. And so that's why when Caesar moved out of Rome and moved into all of Europe, and he controlled all of Europe, once he controlled all of Europe, he moved off of Europe. He moved off the continent of Europe to England. He wanted England because of the very powerful military shipping fleets. And Caesar wanted those ships on the sea for himself because they were a very powerful military power on the seas of the world. So when Caesar moved into Britannia, it was called Britannia, today we call it Britain. When Caesar moved into Britannia, he set up his government, the Roman government in Britain. And where was the Roman government in Britain? It was in a city called York. York, England, was the city where Caesar ruled Britannia. He ruled the British Empire from York. And therefore, Caesar has now decided he wants to expand the business. So he comes to New York. And New York is the Empire State. That's why New York is called the Empire State, because it's the Roman Empire. And in the Roman Empire, what did the Roman Empire do? It collected up all the countries of the world under Caesar. That's what we do in New York. We call it the United Nations. We represent all the countries of the world under us in New York. Yeah. We control the world.
Why is it in New York and not Washington? You know, there's a significance
because
there.
Caesar lives in New York.
Yeah,
that's where the banks are. That's where the bankers are. That's where the real action is. We'll let you know what you can do in Washington, D.C. when we talk to Caesar tonight. It's the 5 families, mafiosi, the gangsters who run this goddamn city. And you don't do nothing in Washington, D.C. You check with me first. So that's why we have something called New York, the Empire State, because it's the state of the new Roman Empire. It's a wonderful, incredible, dark, secret world we live in. And most people have no idea in the world what's going on. The last thing I will do is give you one more piece of information. When you go to the movies and you watch the old John Wayne cowboy movies, you seen the old cowboy movies?
Yeah. Personally, I haven't, but
maybe Dan.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, when you see the old cowboy movies from Hollywood many years ago, the cowboys are all right into town with the guns on their hips. Guns on their hips. They don't need no permit. They're carrying a 45 and a 44 Magnum. You want a permit? Let's go out in the street and talk about it. I'll give you a permit. I'll blow your face off. Because I'm carrying a 44 Magnum on my hip. I don't need a permit. So that's why cowboys could wear guns. And they come into town and they can go into the bar for a drink, and while they're in there, if they have a falling out with another guy, and they can't settle it like gentlemen, because they're not gentlemen, they're animals with guns. So they can't settle anything diplomatically. Well, then you go out in the street and settle it. You can settle it out there. And so they go out and they have what is called a duel. They will draw on each other. But that's legal. That's lawful. You can do that in America because the cowboys had guns. Why did the cowboys have guns? And why were they able to go out in the street right in front of the sheriff's department and draw on each other? And one guy's not going to see the sun come up tomorrow. He's going home to the Lord. Because we have a different dispute between us, and I'm going to make sure you don't come back tomorrow. We're going to settle the dispute right now. And so I can do that. We can do that. Why? Because everyone in America, every man, woman, and child in America, under the 1776 Constitution, was considered a sovereign. That's what the law said. Every man, woman, and child is a sovereign in America. You have the same right as a king or a queen in Europe because of the Constitution. Our Constitution said you have the same rights as a king or a queen. So all the women were sovereigns. They're queens. And now every man walking the street carrying his own gun, he's a sovereign. You mess with him and you better be ready to deal with him. If you pull a gun on him, you better be ready to use it because he's going to use his. So everybody understood you don't mess with your fellow man, and you really don't mess with his women. So, therefore, we were sovereigns. We had the right to carry a gun, to be cowboys and Indians, right? So we have that right. But after the United States of America was done away with in 1870, you don't longer have a right to anything. You don't live under the United States Constitution because there is no Constitution for the United States. That doesn't exist. There is no United States, so what do you need a Constitution for it? You don't have a Constitution for the United States because the U.S. don't exist. It's a corporation. Mm-hmm. It's a company, and you work for the company. And therefore, the corporations cannot make a law. That's important. Corporations cannot make a law. Ford Motor Company today cannot come out and say to the world, we have a law everyone in Canada must do. This is from Ford Motor Company, and every Canadian must do this, this, and that, and must pay this, and that to us. That's the law. People all over the world would say, what the hell are you talking about? You going to give us a law? You're just a Ford Motor Company, and you don't have any control over us. And, I don't know what the hell you're doing in our country. You don't have nothing to do with Canada. What are you talking about? You making a law. Because corporations cannot make law. They can only make a policy. So when you go into, So when you go into Sears and you buy a pair of shoes and you decide you don't like them and bring them back, they will not say, well, the law says. The law says you cannot do that. You can't bring the shoes back. That's the law. No, they will tell you, Sears has a policy. And our policy is once you buy the shoes and wear them, we're not taking them back. That's not the law of God. That's just our policy. That's the way we operate the corporation. You don't like it? So what? It's our policy. So who's going to back up today, we say in America, people in Washington, D.C., the politicians are policy makers. They're not they're policy makers. Why? Because they are politicians. Mm-hmm. Politicians make policy.
And who enforces the policy?
And therefore, who's going to back up the policy of the politicians if it isn't in-house security? They're called police.
Oh my God.
So police are enforcing the policy. So I'm not saying that you can't do this and that because I'm the law. I'm just saying it's my policy. I don't like you wearing red shirts. So it's not a law. It's just my policy. And if I catch your ass on the street wearing it, I'm going to send out the cops and they're the police to back up my policy. But I'm a politician. writing the policy for the corporation. That's where we get police. Police are the in-house security for the corporation.
Yeah.
And that's why if you come across our border from Mexico into America, you are slipping in under law. You're coming into not America, you're coming into a corporation called the U.S. It's a corporation, and you think you're coming into our country. It's not a country, son. It's a corporation. Therefore, you're coming into Ford Motor Company 2 o'clock in the morning unannounced, and you come through a broken window. You are now in trouble because you are now on property that is not yours. This is not a country. This is a corporation. And therefore, the corporation can now put a mechanic's lien on you. If I paint your house and you don't pay me, I can put a lien on your property. You understand? Mm-hmm. That lien means I have an interest in your property. Mm-hmm. You can't do nothing with it unless you pay me. Mm-hmm. So I put a lien on you. So therefore, if you come into this country unannounced and you're making money here, you become known as an alien. No, they have put a lien on you. You are a lien. An alien. They have put a lien on your body. Why? Because you're here in this corporation called United States, and you're making money, and you ain't telling us about it, and we ain't getting 20% off the top. We're not getting a piece of the action. Yeah, your ass is going to jail, son. Because you are not in America, land of the free and the home of the brave. You ain't in America. You are in Ford Motor Company. You're in a privately owned corporation. We don't have no laws. We have policy. And the police will back up our policy. And our policy, you don't come into my country and to my corporation and make money without telling me. We'll put a lien on you. And you'll become known as alien. No, we put a lien on you.
Ooh. Yeah, I think you just blew everybody's mind.
Yeah, I'm actually, my mind's on fire right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
again, the language. It's
all
all
in
in the
the
language.
language.
It's right there in front of you. It's nuts.
That's right. That's why if you borrow money from the mafia and you don't put it back, they say they're going to lean on you.
Yeah.
They're going to lean on you. They're leaning on you, which means they're going to get their money back one way or the other. It's going to be out of your pocket or out of your ass, but they're going to get their money back because they're going to put a lien on you. Now they're leaning on you. That's right, because you came into this country, you thought it was America, land of the free. There ain't no free here. This is a land of liberty, the Statue of Liberty, not freedom. There ain't nobody here free. You think you're free? Yeah, go out and do something without asking permission. Watch what you get. In America, you're going to paint your house, you better find out what the city hall says first. Whatever it is you're going to do in this country, you better check with the government first, because you ain't free. But don't tell me about land of the free and home of the brave, because you ain't free or brave. You're an employee of a foreign corporation called United States Corporation. There are two constitutions. There's a constitution for the United States, and there's a constitution of the United States of America. A constitution for or a constitution of. Two separate constitutions. Just never occurred to you that there are two different constitutions. So when you say, well, I'm under the Constitution for the United States, no, you're under the Constitution of the United States, not for. So there's a big difference. You don't know the difference? Well, you're going to find out when you go into court today. You're going to find out what the difference is. And the first time you open your mouth and tell the judge, I'm an American, I have rights, they're going to explain to you, son, you have no rights in here. I'm sending you to prison for 5 years. Now, what are you going to do about that? Huh? What are you going to do about that? I'm saying to you for 10 years, you ain't got no rights here. You ain't never had no rights. Your grandma didn't have any rights. Since 1870, nobody's got any rights in this country. It's a corporation, and that corporation is owned by European international bankers who sold America down the tubes. That's why we had a civil war to destroy the United States of America.
Yeah, it seems that like these, these bankers, these secret societies of powerful people who want to control things, it's, they have the perfect formula. It's like it's a freedom, it's a miraged freedom, it's like an illusion that we all think we're free, but we don't take the time to actually learn what these words mean, what the law means.
George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the American Dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not an American dream, it's an American nightmare where you need to wake up and find out who the hell is running this country. Money runs this country, period. The Constitution is for the money, by the money, and of the money, period. As long as Martin Luther King was talking about the difference between blacks and whites and the differences between the two, he was all right. You go out and cry all you want about the blacks and white. But when he went into Georgia and started talking about the haves and the have-nots, the people with the money and the people who don't have any, now they got to deal with him. They killed him. Because we don't want you talking about that problem. Because there's more poor people out there than there is bankers and international bankers. So for every one banker, you've got 100,000 poor people. So for the 4,000 international bankers and billionaires and millionaires, you got 360 million poor people. So you want to talk about the difference between the rich and the poor? There's a hell of a difference. The rich are very small and the poor are very big, and you don't want to wake them up. You better keep your mouth shut. You don't want to wake them up, because if they ever get pissed in the streets, there's going to be some serious problems, and you're going to have to bring in the military, and if the military ever kills one American on American soil, you're going to have some serious problems with the military killing their own people on the property in America. So you better back up and worry about how this world really works.
Yeah.
That's the name of the tune.
That's the name of the tune.
I guess the only option is to wake up, Like, I'm like, what else can we do, though? Like,
well, I think we are slowly waking up. I think the people are the poor are slowly waking up. But there's so much influences, like even the President Trump, they're trying to constantly push you back.
Even something like communism that really appeals to poor people. It's like you said in I think in Matrix Power, who is financing the communists? It's all about money. You got to think about who is financing these people.
That's why you have unions. The painters union, the carpenters union, the plasterers union, and the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
The whole idea of union is communism. The collectivists collect everybody together. So why? So you can control the workforce. So this way you're not going to build no buildings unless you talk to me, son, because I control the carpenters. And any carpenter that comes on your job, I'll kill him. You deal with me first. And if I get my money and I get my piece of the action first, then I will say it's a good idea for the carpenters to go work for you. You mess with me and watch how quick the carpenters walk off of your job, and you don't have no job and you don't have no business. Why? Because I control the labor. The labor is communism. I collectivize, I collect all the labor. That's why communism was founded by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds of England. The international banking elite financed Marxist communism. Why? Because the financial elite, like the Rockefellers, want to control business. And what's the best way to control business? Is to control the people who do business and work for business. Control the people and you control the business. And so if I am Rockefeller and I put $100 million behind world communism to promote world communism in Russia, and I provided money all over the world to promote the communists are loving it. They thought, oh, the poor people are going to run the world. Poor people ain't never run nothing. I run it because I'm the one that's paying you to go out in the street and with your silly ass riots. That's why when you see riots, we call them a demonstration. You ever heard that term, a demonstration? The people are demonstrating. The people are demonstrating. We call it a riot. Why? Because it's democracy.
Mob rule.
Mob rule. Democracy is the mob. They're out in the street. There's 100,000 of them. They're turning cars over and drinking and setting fire to buildings. And it's a people speaking. The people have spoken. The people. And so the idea the Rockefellers put into your head that it's the poor people speaking. No, but there ain't no poor people unless you got money. Where did these people controlling the riots get their money from? Nobody ever asked where Karl Marx and V.I. Lenin, the guys who founded communism, where did they get the money?
Exactly.
When Germany was at war in the First World War, when the war was over, Germany was broke, quite literally broke. It has spent every dime it could beg, borrow, or steal to fight the war in Europe. And they lost. They lost, but not only did they lose, but they were broke. And the history book said that every day, every 24 hours, horse-drawn carriages would go through the major cities of Germany and pick up the dead bodies on the streets. Pick up the dead bodies on the streets of people who have just goddamn starved to death and died on the streets in Germany. Why? Because they're broke. There's no food, there's no money, period. The only thing left for you to do is leave this world. So they committed suicide or just died of starvation. So when Hitler comes into power in the mid-1920s, Adolf Hitler comes in, and he looks around and says, this is bullshit. The German people shouldn't have to die starving like this. We are the most important people on the planet, the Germans. We're technologically advanced, we're brilliant, we're intelligent, and we're crawling on our knees and dying on the street. And so he started talking about we need to restore Germany. And all of a sudden, he's in government, the people he's running for office, and people vote for him. He becomes the Führer, he becomes the absolute sovereign, and now he's got a brand new army, he's got all kinds of new industry. The Nazi powers had all kinds of high technology, jets, flying saucers, nuclear power, lasers, television. They had all the top-of-the-line technology. Nobody in America seems to ask the question, where did Hitler get the money? He had the largest navy on the seas of the world, the largest operation of submarines in the world. You know how much it cost to buy a submarine, for God's sake? The Germany was starving. Where did he get the money? He got the money from the Rothschilds and from the Rockefellers. From Chase Manhattan Bank in New York gave him the money. Why would Chase Manhattan give Adolf Hitler the money? Because they want him to overthrow all the other bankers in Europe and make them the world bankers. And so that's what Hitler was financed to do, is destroy all the superstructure of Europe and ultimately give it back to America.
Wow.
It's just business.
Yeah, it kind of. I guess that leads me to another question I really wanted to ask you. Throughout, you can trace like these secret societies and their influence on the world through the World War I and World War II, and by following the money trail. And it's something that you said really hit home for me. This is actually why I wanted to email you and try to get you on the show, is because you said that it seems like we're living under the most powerful government the world's ever known, and it seems like whatever they want they get. But when you look around the world, there's just chaos everywhere. There's everything's upside down. There's actually a joke on the internet that they're calling it the clown world order. Everything's run by clowns because nothing makes sense. So I'm wondering, are they getting closer? It seems like they want chaos because they want chaos, but they want order. So it's I wondered if you could clarify.
Yeah, I could clarify that real easy. Just listen. If I am a white man and I go to Africa on vacation and I get in trouble and the African government throws me into prison, I'm the only white guy in the damn prison. Everybody else there is black. That don't bode well for me. So the smart thing to do is what England and America has done. The smart thing for me to do is start sowing the seeds of contempt among the black population in the prison. I go to one black guy and say, you know what he said about your mother? He said this is about your mother. Did you know that? And I go to this black guy and say, you know what this guy over here in the South said about you? This is what he said about you. And before you know it, I get all the blacks fighting and angry at each other. They're all rioting against each other. Thank God. They all hate each other. They'll leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so that's why today, everywhere in the world, there's nothing but riots and bloodsheds and war and famine, because we are causing it. We finance the wars. We send in the CIA to kill people and to start a war. And then we get them out quick and bring them home. And then because there's now a war going on somewhere, we just put in the money. It cost us only $22 million to start a war in Africa. And we paid all the soldiers to start this war and overthrow the government. Then we get our people out, and now we, as America, we have to go in and stop this terrible war. We have to do something. We have to do something, and it's going to be terrible, and we're going to have to hurt a lot of people. God. But if we're going to stop this terrible war that we started, we're going to have to do something. So you're going to have to give me permission to go into Africa and stop this terrible killing, which we're the ones that started to start with. We paid for it. But now we have to go in and do something to stop it. The same thing as if I was a white guy in a black prison in Africa, I get everybody fighting each other and everybody's cursing and yelling at each other. Thank God they're leaving me alone. I don't care. Let them go kill themselves. I don't give a shit as long as they leave me alone, okay?
It's a controlled chaos to stay in control.
Controlled chaos. Order of chaos. Order out of the chaos. Do you remember the cartoon, the comedy program, Get Smart?
I've heard about it, yes. I saw the reboot movie, but I know my parents really liked that show.
Yeah. Get Smart was a term that we in America, many years ago, young people would say to stupid people. When we come across somebody who is stupid, we say, get smart, stupid. Wake up and get an education. Get smart. You're roaming around like a fool. You don't know what you're doing. You have no idea how to read. You can't read. You can't write. You're stupid. So get smart. Well, they made a television comedy called Get Smart. And Get Smart TV show was about the two sides that are at war with each other in the world. And each one's telling the other one to get smart. And so in the TV show, Get Smart, one is America and England against Russia and China, against the communists. And so the American side is telling the communist side, get smart. We own you, stupid. So get smart. We know who you are. We can stop you anytime we want because we're the ones that started you. And so that's why you got the comedy Get Smart. But who were the two sides in Get Smart? That's what's really interesting. The two sides that were fighting each other, one was called chaos, and the other side, the good side, was called control.
Mm-hmm.
Control and chaos. Get smart. They're telling you something. Wake up, my friend. Get smart. The control is America and England, because we have the international banking and we've got the largest military installations on the earth, period. So get smart. China is no problem to us. Russia and China together will whip their ass in one weekend. They know it and we know it. What we have in our arsenals, China and Russia cannot even begin to imagine what we could do. But they're smart enough to know, don't mess with the Americans in England. Don't get them mad at you, because every time America comes into a war, twice, in World War I and World War II, every time America comes into a war, they always win. So don't mess with them.
Don't you think this is actually what you just said maybe fits in with what Russia was doing with the elections? Maybe they were trying to cause a little chaos to have control, to have this order.
Yes, I think that might be happening, but not the way you think, because they're very clever. The Russians are a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. They're very clever, and they're not going to do something that you're going to see immediately. They are doing what they're doing through the Democratic Party. Is a communist party in America. Soviet communism is today called the Democratic Party, because if you go back into history, go back to encyclopedias, and look up all the communist countries that fell to communism under the Soviet Union. They were all referred to officially as the People's Democratic Republic. The People's Democratic Republic of China. The People's Democratic Republic of Cuba. The People's Democratic Republic of North Korea. Always the People's Democratic Republic. That's what we have in America, the Democratic Republic. That's why you always hear the politicians talking about, well, they're going to try and hurt our democracy. And we have a democracy in America. Democracy is democratic. It's mob rule. It's Marxist-Leninist Soviet communism. Wake up. It's chaos out of control. It's control out of chaos. We are controlling the world, financing the chaos. America is financing the wars all over the world. And when the wars break out, now we have to go in and save the poor people, and feed the little children, and save the poor. So we send in the Marines, and they're going to kick some ass. You understand who the boss is? And if you want to give us some problems, we'll send in the special forces. You don't want to know what they're like. We'll send in the SEALs, and you really don't want to know what they're going to do when they get there, because they are trained, highly trained. They're the kind of people that you can drop them off and it's been said, the Navy SEALs are like people that you can drop them off totally naked in the mountains of Afghanistan, up in the mountains, totally naked, and 2 weeks later they'll come to your birthday party, fully dressed with a gun, looking for you. You think you're going to mess with them? You better think twice. They are well trained that no matter what you throw them into, they'll come back at you and they're going to bite you in the ass. So we have something called chaos out of control. We have control out of chaos. So we Americans finance all the chaos going on all over the world. And yes, the Russians may be trying to mess with us. But how are they doing it? They're not doing it themselves. They're doing it, Russia is doing it through the Democratic Party. That's what people don't know. The Russians are doing it through the Democratic Party. So we still today love talking about the Democrats, and we're the Democrats, and we spreading democracy. Yeah, you're spreading Marxist communism, imbecilic moron. You have no, yeah, you're just a sad, ignorant, ill-informed, unread bunch of goofballs who are financing and giving your life. You'll serve your country. The Democrats are going to serve America. They're serving the Communist Party. The Communist Party is financed by money, and you don't have any.
Yeah, and
it's the international bankers who have the money, and they will finance whoever they want. And if they take your financing away, you got no job. You got nothing. So it's the Rockefellers who control America with money. The international banking elite have the money, and they are controlling the Democratic Party.
Sorry to cut you off, but we're coming up on 3 hours now. We have about 7 minutes left. So maybe you can finish off this point, and once you're done finishing off the point, then we'll do a few quick fire questions and end this, and then if you'd like, we can have a conversation together after, and you can tell us some more.
Let me say this if we only got a couple of minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
There are different websites out there on the web with my name on them, but I don't own them. Other people are using my name to make money because they know my name makes money. People are listening to me, so they use my name, and they're selling products of my products to make money off of me. I only have one website, and it's Jordan Maxwell Show.
Mm-hmm. We have that right now.
SHOW, Jordan Maxwell Show. That's my website. So don't email me on Jordan Maxwell Show and say, Jordan, is this really your website? I'm telling you it is. Go on Jordan Maxwell Show, and it's my website. When you go on my website, you will see immediately a link to something called Jordan Maxwell Research Society. Click on the Jordan Maxwell Research Society. It takes you to my second website. I have two websites, Jordan Maxwell Show and Jordan Maxwell Research. So on the Jordan Maxwell Research Society, you have to join the Research Society. I don't give it away for free. You have to join it. Read it. Just click on Jordan Maxwell Research Society and read it. And it will tell you how to join and how much and all that. All the information is there. And I was told by my lawyer friends, I have a couple of friends who are lawyers, and they told me the kind of information that you're putting out on your website, you better back up. You're wrong. You're out of step. You better back up because you're going to get in trouble. The kind of information you're talking about can get you hurt. So anything you're going to put out there in the public, you better do it as a private organization. You better put it as a private organization. Why? Because if you're in a restaurant and you go there for dinner with 10 of your friends, and you're sitting in the back of the restaurant, all 10 of your people, and you're talking some really off-the-wall stuff, calling people names and racist words and names, and cursing and using all kind of profanity about other people, nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. That's your private conversation. As long as you're not on radio talking like that, as long as you're not out on the streets and have the TV on you talking like that, then the government doesn't care what you say in private to other people in private. That's none of their business, and they don't care as long as you keep your mouth shut in public, because they are empowered to protect the public. That's why the attorneys told me the kind of stuff you're telling people, you better put it off of the website into a private website. Because if it's in a public website, you're going to get yourself in some serious trouble talking about the things you're talking about. So that's why I had to found a second website called Jordan Maxwell Research Society. So if you want to hear the rest of the story, I can tell you all the stuff that's going on. Go on Jordan Maxwell Show and click on Jordan Maxwell Research Society. And on my research society, I have all the documents, pictures, information, white papers, audio, visuals, video. I've got all kinds of strange and off-the-wall information you've never heard of before. But you have to join it. So go on my website, and when you join it, it's only a one-time contribution, just a one-time donation for a lifetime of my work. And I am continually putting new information up on my website every day as soon as I can. I'm doing it through my webmaster. He's got a life to live too, so he's only can conduct so much time for me each day. But he handles my website and puts on all my newest information. I got stuff on there that can turn your hair white.
So we'll definitely promote that research society. We're gonna try to air the show as soon as we can on live on air, and see how many people. I know there's a lot of people at our station that are. When I told them about our interview, they were really excited. Some guys who have been doing the news for 30 years on the station were like, really, you know, they didn't care about any of the other people I had, but they knew your name. And I have a good feeling that you're gonna see some good donations when we post the show live on the air.
So just remember that I live on donations. I don't have any big income. I'm not a movie star. I'm not a big producer and director in Hollywood. I just have spent my whole life researching all the dark secrets of the world. And you don't make a lot of money doing that by exposing the darkness. Today I have nothing, I own nothing, I've got nothing. So I live on contributions, and it helps me a lot when people join my research society, because it gives me the money to pay my webmaster and pay my own bills so I can stay alive to do my work. Because I am a researcher. I have made a name for myself around the world. Not as a great writer and a great, exposing of lies. I'm just a researcher. I'm just an ordinary man trying to help my fellow man to wake up. And it helps me a lot if it's advertised that I have a research society and you want to donate toward me.
So for our listeners, in the description of the YouTube video that we're going to post with this podcast, we'll put links both to JordanMaxwellShow.com and his research society. So if you'd like to donate, feel free to check those out. We'll also be linking to our Facebook page where you can give us a like and follow so you can hear more awesome content like this. So to finish off, Jordan, we'd just like to say thank you for coming onto the show.
Yeah, huge thank you. This means the world to me.
This is awesome.
Yeah, no, I wanted to, usually our show is very lighthearted, but I really wanted to make an episode that is dedicated to opening people's minds and making them think for themselves, and what better way to do it get the best guy there is out there.
Just remember, your mind is like a parachute. It don't work if it's not open.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You shined new light on many things for me today, and hopefully for our viewers too. I'm super happy we had the pleasure of meeting you. So thanks again for just making time to be with us.
All right,
let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut the stream.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna stop recording, but I'm gonna keep the Skype open so you guys can talk.